Guys. That moment with Rosie O'Donnell was the best. And I wish I could find it, but I can't. Guess what? We did.
We're bringing you an episode of like our most fun.
It's a clip show, baby.
It's a clip show. It's a review. It's full of fun. We've had so many fun moments and so many big laughs on this show.
The best.
And we've never gone back and taken a look at them. And we just figured, you know what? Now's the time to do it. Let's take a look back at some of the episodes.
The time
that, you maybe haven't revisited in a while. And so here's a bunch of our most fun moments.
Enjoy. We sat down with my friend and someone that I've been working with on Girls 5 Eva, the most amazing Andrew Rannells.
My name is Andrew Rannells, and I'm very happy to be here.
You moved out to New York when you were 18?
19. I wanted to be on Broadway. I fell in love with musical theater.
Did you go to Carnegie Mellon or something?
I did not. I went to a school called Marymount Manhattan on the Upper East Side.
I went to Loyola Marymount University in LA. Yeah.
Jesuits.
Yeah.
Yes, and I left after about 2 years.
Me too.
Because I started working.
Me too.
Like, peace out.
Oh my God, are we the same person?
We're the same person. No, but all I wanted to do was musical theater. So like I came to New York with a very specific goal of like I wanted to sing and dance on the Broadway.
And how was the journey for you? Did you have like any early setbacks where you were like, well, maybe I'll just go do this other thing instead?
Yeah, I did. I auditioned. I was kind of working and was auditioning a lot and really trying to like make it happen. And then other people around me were making it happen. And I got very discouraged
was
around.
It like Matt Morrison?
It was like Matt Morrison.
Yeah,
literally. Like Matt and my friend Gavin Creel. And
hair.
Yes. And my friend Jen Gambatese. Like all of those people like got there faster than I did. So around 23, I took a 2-year break. I took a job. I directed Saturday morning cartoons.
What?
Yeah, I directed. It was a company called 4Kids Entertainment, and I directed Sonic the Hedgehog and Kirby for Nintendo.
What?
And I did that for 2 years, and I was like, steady paycheck, and it was like, and in some ways, like it was very comfortable
and
because,
creative-ish.
Yeah, ish, and I knew what I was doing, but and then I got sucked back in. I got a phone call from a casting director. This was 2 years into.
And had you stopped auditioning?
Yeah, just totally stopped.
You were like, this isn't happening.
Yeah, it wasn't going to happen for me. And at
23 years old, you decided.
And at 23, I felt very old.
Me too, though. Yeah. Me too.
I was like, I've been doing this for too long, and I just hate it. So I stopped, and then this casting director from Bernie Telsey called me.
Bernie Telsey is like the biggest.
He's a huge casting director.
Very, very big Broadway casting director. Yes. Like all the big musicals.
He called me out of the blue and asked me to come in for a musical called Taboo, which was a Boy George musical that Rosie O'Donnell was producing.
Oh, wait.
I know.
Because Caissie worked for Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, okay. Yes. So Rosie O'Donnell, it was a big news in New York that she was the sole producer of that musical. It was like a real David Merrick sitch where she was like the only producer on this show. And they were casting this one part. So I went in and I got very close. I was like down to the end, the bitter end. And in fact, Rosie O'Donnell told me to my face in the audition room that I did not get the job.
Did you appreciate that?
I did.
I did too. I do too.
Because she let me off the hook. I auditioned and I like tried my damnedest. And then she was like, honey, you're very talented. This is not for you.
Well,
and that was it. But I appreciated it because then I could leave the room and there was not that horrible like 2 hours after you audition for something.
Where you're waiting for the call.
And so I just, walked away and was sad. But then that got me hooked back into auditioning. So I quit my job and I started auditioning. And then Bernie Telsey cast me in Hairspray. And that restarted my...
And so Hairspray was not, you were a replacement?
I was a replacement, yeah.
And you came in and were you corny?
I was the pivotal role of Fender in the ensemble.
I know John Hill as well.
Yes. I replaced John Hill. Yes. So I replaced John Hill, and then I became Link Larkin.
Link Larkin.
I was yes. So I did that for a while, and then was fired. And,
you were?
Well, contracts run out on Broadway, and
How does that work?
They like to bring in new people, so they.
Do you age out of Hairspray though too?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't too old to do it at the time, but they like to reinvigorate the group, and they just they let people go. So I was let go, and that was a real life lesson.
And what happened when you were let go from Hairspray? Because how long was your contract? 2 years?
I did 9 months in the ensemble and 9 months as Link Larkin.
Ooh, that's nice.
And then they said, bye-bye.
Were you surprised when they let you go? Or
yeah, I was surprised and devastated. Although this was almost 4 years into the Hairspray run, and as Broadway shows often do, it becomes the Love Boat. So they start bringing in like every American Idol cast off, everyone who was ever on Big Brother or The Real World. Like people start popping up who probably have no business being in a musical. I was luckily replaced with someone who was very talented named Aaron Tveit, who was doing Moulin Rouge on Broadway right now and has done a lot of things. But he was the one who came in and replaced me. But it was sad days.
And you were bummed?
I was bummed, but you just keep going. You just keep going.
You just felt like, I'm just going to keep.
Yeah. So, and I bounced around to some other shows and then landed in Jersey Boys for a while.
Okay. So Jersey Boys, you were the understudy.
No. I was one of the boys.
Wait, I thought when we were talking last night, I thought you were, was that
an understudy? No, that was Hairspray that I understudied, which is a very hard job. That's a really hard job because I had my own little part in the ensemble, and then I covered Link Larkin, Corny Collins, and a pivotal role called the male authority figure, who at that time was played by Jim J. Bullock.
Oh my God.
Yes. So here I was at 26 playing the character actor, and they told me, you'll never go on. You'll never have to do this. And then sure enough, I went on a bunch. I had to play like the old man and be like, Tracy Turnblad, you're on the, like, it was humiliating.
That's
just like
so
wigs and
weird.
glasses and like age makeup. It was really.
Okay. So I want to know, how did Book of Mormon happen? Did you do all of the workshops? So
I didn't. That just came about. It was just, it was an audition. I was a part of that year, I was a part of 3 different new musicals, like readings and stuff.
On a Broadway show, you have to try to hustle to get auditions to get cast in other workshops of shows that might possibly end up on Broadway, or might possibly end up at the Public, or might possibly end up somewhere else, or could be whatever. You don't even know, because you want to do those so that if those end up getting financed and going, maybe they will bring you in.
Yeah, it's all a bit of a crapshoot, though. It's really tricky to sort of figure out, you have to hedge your bets a little bit to be like, well, am I leaving a good job to take a better job?
Which is why sometimes you'll go see one of the long running shows on Broadway, like Lion King or Wicked or something like that. There's always people in the cast that are like, this is their 13th year with Wicked, because they're like, I am not, I am in this part, this is my job.
I had a friend who did Chicago for 20 years.
Fuck off, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was asked at one point to come in to Chicago.
Did you consider it?
No, because I was it was literally following somebody from American Idol. Not American Idol.
That's a Real Housewife? Was it
it was
it was or something?
Yeah, it was it was following Brandy Glanville.
Literally
Brandy Glanville.
She was great. I mean,
Brandy
there is
did
a Brandy Glanville. Did she?
I don't know who that is.
She was married to Eddie Cibrian.
It might have been Leanne Rimes.
Oh,
did she do Chicago?
If you just mistook Leanne Rimes for Brandy Glanville, you just caused a whole other year of drama in that family.
Well, I don't. Please, let's just cut it out. I don't want to cause any drama.
But are they still together, Eddie and
who cares? Are we interested?
Is this so?
Maybe it was the hot gossip.
Maybe it was true love.
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, you never know.
You just don't know.
You never know.
We don't know what's in people's hearts.
By the way, I'm never judgy.
Oh, I am.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that about you.
I'll judge my face off. I'll smile to your face. It's called manners, Busy. I would never say anything mean to your face. I'll talk shit about you behind your back.
I'm not judgy. I'm not judgy about anything.
I'm from Nebraska. That's how it works.
I don't know what else. I don't know. I don't even want to get into it. Okay, wait. So you get cast in Book of Mormon,
Yes.
and from the second you're cast, are you like, holy fuck, this is the best thing ever? Or what do you think?
Yeah.
Are you nervous? Were you nervous?
Terrified, because I joined right at the end, so they had done 2 readings and 1 workshop. So
And
they
was
had been
Josh
working on it for a while.
Gad a part of it from the beginning?
Totally from the beginning, yeah.
And who was your part?
A few people. They kept replacing.
Right, because they didn't get it right till they got you.
Well, I guess. I
That's
don't know.
the
That's what I
truth.
tell myself.
That's
That's what I say in the
story.
mirror. But so they kept replacing that role. So I was very nervous. And I came in for the last workshop, and they didn't offer like Broadway contracts. They were like, this is just for the workshop. So I was, really white knuckled that part. And I tried to make it as personal as possible, and also made the singing as high as possible so that they couldn't replace me.
Oh my God. Are you kidding?
So I was like, Stephen Aremus, who's a musical director, is a good friend of mine. And we would be in rehearsals, and I would be like, let's raise the key. And he was like, really? And I was like, yep, let's do it. So I made it so high and so like
Specific to
me that like no one else, so they couldn't hear anyone else doing it.
Wait,
Well,
first
That's
of all,
called
That's
showbiz.
genius. to
First
give
of all,
yourself-
that's genius.
Yeah, and I saw you in Book of Mormon. I got to
Me
see
too,
you,
me too.
And you were impossible to look away from.
Yeah,
Thank
you were
you.
such a
That's
fucking
very
star
nice.
from like the second you walk on stage.
I mean, that was the crazy part about doing that show, was like all of the people that came to see it, because that's not usually the case with Broadway shows, that like it's like celebrity after celebrity, and like every night there was some random people that Josh and I would like look into the audience and be like, oh my God, Goldie Hawn is here. Like
There
Oprah came. Like
Did you get to
And-
take a picture with Oprah?
I sure did. I took a picture with Oprah. Her eyes are closed, and Gail King's blouse had come unbuttoned, so her brassiere is showing.
God giveth and God
so-
taketh away.
I know, and I didn't want to ask to retake it. So
what? That is the most.
So I just let it go.
Oh my God, can I get somebody that I know that it's like really good at Photoshop to just like make that picture
Open
something.
her eyes.
Open
Oprah's eyes and close Gail's blouse so that can be like framed for you.
No, it's just not going to happen. But I will say, I will say,
I do have to see it though.
Since that moment,
You have to text it to me.
Gail King has this amazing skill that some people have. I do not, where she remembers like faces and names. Like she's like a politician. Like so every time I see her, that was almost 10 years ago. Anytime I see Gail King, she's like, Andrew Rannells. Like she's very good
You're also
at like
famous.
Well, not for Gail King, but like,
if anyone,
but she's so nice. Like she's always so like warm and lovely, and like yeah, she remembers things about you from the last time you talked. It's really. I ran into her at the opening night of To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway, and she was with Oprah, and I made like a weird decision that I was like, I'm going in. I'm going to go in.
That's a wild call. Guys, if you ever see Oprah in the Wild with Gail King, the decision to go in is...
Don't. Yeah, you shouldn't do it.
What happened?
So I decided, I was like, watch this. I'm going in for Gail. So I went in for Gail, and I was like, Gail, and it was me, Andrew Rannells, and she was like, hi. And then we were chatting, and I did the fakest, like, oh, Oprah's here. Like I did like a
No,
real...
you did not.
I did.
No, you didn't.
Like I didn't see Oprah.
Oh, no.
I just went straight because like Gail and I had like a rapport. So I was like, well, that seems normal. But then I did like the worst acting job ever. Also that night, I'll tell you all the stories. Also that night, Hugh Jackman was there, who I'm obsessed with.
Obvi.
And who's always been very kind to me and like really lovely. So I also, said hello to him. He was sitting behind me. And I kept hugging him.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Until my friend, Sean Dooley, put his hand on my back and went, stop it. Because clearly I was making him uncomfortable. Because I just kept I'd be like, oh, it's good to see you. And then he would ask a question.
And then you would hug him again? What?
And then I would say something and then I would hug him. No, I was just wanted to be near him.
You just wanted to hug. You wanted him to hold you like a baby.
Well, so the year of the Book of Mormon and I performed on the Tonys, he performed right before me. So he was backstage getting his microphone on and I was getting my microphone on and he was like, how you feeling? And I was like, I'm very nervous. And he went, come here. and he hugged me, and he like gave me a hug, and he said, he was like, "You're going to be fine." And he sort of like rocked me a second, and I nuzzled into his neck. In a really inappropriate way.
It sounds like you're almost always inappropriate with Hugh Jackman.
Like restraining order.
I mean,
like
he did rock you. He opened the door by rocking you.
He was doing
he was trying to be just like cool, and I took it too far.
You took it. Well, I mean,
by the way, that could be the alternate title for your book.
Yeah.
It could have been I took it too far.
I took it too far.
Did they have children, him and Deborah?
I don't know. I don't know. He's and she's also very lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah, I've scared her a couple times too.
Well, I would imagine. I would just think like you just hugging her husband and not stopping.
I know. I cozied up to her at the Met Ball one year, and like she looked. I saw a look in her face that I will have to live with until I die. Where she was like, basically like, "Fuck off." Like I would just kept, not really, but like I just kept trying to like chat with her, and I'd be like, "So what else?" And she was like, "Please leave."
We've gone. No. We can't do this any longer.
Have time.
I have nothing else to give you.
You know when you run out at those parties and you're like, I just have to tap out right now?
Oh, God, I hate it, though. I do hate it.
Because you never say goodbye at those things.
No.
You're like, it's just like half chats.
Yes.
Yeah. And this was early in the night. This isn't even when like
but
all
those
of
things
the
are so
actresses
stressful,
are drunk.
I would imagine. I don't know.
The Met Ball is super fun because you get to see like every young actress like wasted and crying at the end of the night.
I love that.
Just like fighting on their like, he didn't call me. And like everyone's shouting.
God, no matter what it is, it's all the same.
It's all the same.
It's all the fucking same. You guys out there listening, you at the well, not right now, but pre and hopefully post Coves
at the club.
At the local club on Friday night is no different than Kendall Jenner at the Met Ball.
No, you're holding your shoes and you're crying into a cell phone.
And you're like, should I get a street hot dog?
Yeah.
What about 10?
Oh, my God.
What a delightful person. I love Andrew so much. Oh, Juneshine. Juneshine. First of all, I loved Juneshine before they made the canned cocktails. Like, I really enjoyed the Juneshine that was like kind of like the beer one. So refreshing and light and never made me feel like, ugh, you know? And now they have these canned cocktails, margaritas, vodka sodas, rum cocktails. Come on. Made with the premium ingredients that taste amazing. And they have no added sugar. No added sugar. It's a lighter, brighter buzz. Just so you know, another kind of canned margarita has 27 grams of sugar, and there's no nutritional effects on the packaging. Like, I don't think you really need 27 grams of sugar to make a margarita. I'm serious. Juneshine has one with only 6 grams of sugar, which is all from the real ingredients that they use, like orange and lime. And Juneshine's margarita tastes so good, the best. Has 0 added sugar, flavored only with real orange juice and lime juice, premium tequila, and a hint of sea salt. You guys, get into it. Bring it to a BBQ, a cooler at the beach, a party, just like at-home happy hour. Why not? Just delightful. Juneshine. They have the margarita pack, 4 different flavors, spicy, mango, tropical, and lime. You know I'm obviously a fan of that, since I've talked about it the most. But also if you like vodka, passion fruit vodka soda and a classic vodka mule, yum. Plus, they have an all-new vodka soda variety pack with 4 brand new flavors. I haven't tried that yet. I'm going to try it. And they've got Mai Tais if you like rum. And their new best-selling Surfer on Acid. Whoa. It's a take on a rum punch. And if you can't choose, get that mixed pack. It has a little bit of everything: tequila, vodka, rum. Juneshine can be found in over 10,000 stores across the country. It's available at all the retailers you're already visiting for groceries and alcohol, like Whole Foods, Target, Ralph's, Vaughn's, Albertsons, Kroger, Wegmans, Total Wine, Bevmo, Safeway, and more. But listen to me. We've worked out a special offer for our listeners at any store You can buy one June Shine package and get the second for only a penny, 1 cent. That's like a $12 to $20 savings. I recommend trying one of their best-selling variety packs. It's a great way to try all of the delicious flavors. Go to juneshine.com/busy. You text them a photo of your receipt and they will Venmo you immediately. It is that easy. What? That's JUNESHINE.com/busy. Couldn't be easier. We love you, June Shine. Oh, listen, we've talked about this before, but I love my green pan cookware. And if you're a person who's like hasn't thought enough about what you're cooking with, it's time to start thinking about it, especially if you have like nonstick cookware. You've heard us talk about Green Pan, how Green Pan makes the best ceramic nonstick cookware money can buy. They are the ones that revolutionized home cooking way back in 2007 when they introduced the world to ceramic nonstick cookware, which is the first and the best toxin-free alternative to cookware with traditional coatings. Their pans are free of PFAS, which you know is PFAS, if you've like are just used to seeing it in print like me, or PFOA, which is the other one, PFOA, lead, and cadmium. And listen, if you don't know what that means, all you need to know is that your cookware might be coated with forever chemicals, but green pans are not. A lot of cookware companies say that they are toxin-free, but if they're not PFAS-free, they're not toxin-free. Ugh. I love Green Pan because, first of all, it really works. It's nonstick. It's fantastic, but also it's cute. I went with the blue because we have the yellow tile in the kitchen and it looks so great. And if you're not sure what kind of cookware you need, Green Pan has a quiz. You know I love a quiz. And it will guide you to the right choice based on your experience level and how often you cook and what kind of stovetop you have. Green Pan also, guess what, owns their factory. So sometimes other companies create cheap products with cheap materials because, you guessed it, it's cheaper. Green Pan makes sure its products live up to their standards. Plus, they have a 60-day return policy. So you have plenty of time to make sure Green Pan is right for you. So guys, toss those plastic pans and upgrade your cookware with Green Pan. Head to greenpan.us and use promo code BEST. And you'll receive 30% off your entire order plus free shipping on orders over $99. That's right, 30% off. So head to greenpan.us and make sure you use our promo code BEST, or they will not know that we sent you. And it is important that they know. We love you, Green Pan. I really had a lovely time talking with Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah. She was incredible. And for those of you that don't know, our dear Caissie St. Ange, after she was David Letterman's assistant, guys, she could write a fucking book. But she won't because she's not that kind of person.
I have manners.
Not me. The book would have already been out. She went to work on the Rosie O'Donnell show. And so much of the stuff that we talked about earlier today, I really think Rosie is responsible for creating an environment in that show that was unlike anything Caissie had ever experienced before and kind of showed you the possibility of the way that things could be. And yes, by all accounts, it was a pretty magical 6 years on that show, including the fact that, well, I'm going to let you guys listen to it because Caissie has she says a really amazing thing to Rosie that I'm just going to dare you to not cry when it happens.
I'm so happy to know that this is not going out. I took a bath. I tried to fix my hair. And I'm like, now it's not going out. I'm so happy.
Hi, Rosie.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you. It's so nice to meet you. I've been such a huge fan for so long. I would dream. I would do, when I was in college at Loyola Marymount University, oh no, am I going to cry already? I would drive back to Arizona and I would practice my interview with you in the car.
Oh, that is so cute.
Yeah.
You know, I used to do that with Johnny Carson when I was like 16. I had pimples and I would sit on my bathroom and I'd go like, so Johnny Carson, when I was 16, I used to sit on my bathroom and talk to you. Like I was doing like Jerry Seinfeld's effect.
Yeah.
And
That was like my dream.
And I really want to wear those Koosh toys.
Yeah, those toys.
I
we made a lot of money for that guy.
I know.
Yes.
Well, like, I feel like you made a lot of money for a lot of other people.
Yes, we did. We made a lot of it. We were able, you know, I felt like it was a good use of my power to try to be like the mafia for existing nonprofits that were credited.
Right.
So like if somebody said after I did Tickle Me Elmo, which was a real thing, my son actually really liked it. So that's why I brought it on TV. Then they would come in the week after and go, oh, by the way, this is the new Dolly Lolly doll. The Lolly, could you say you love it? I'm like, if I'm going to do things, I'm going to rip you off and I'm going to make you pay a lot to charity in order to get me to do something. And that's what we did. We raised millions of dollars.
It's genius. You were an influencer.
Yeah.
You were the first influencer, essentially.
And I really did feel like Robin Hood, I have to tell you. I felt like, you know, when they would say, give away this toy, and I'd say, can you send 2,000 toys to this hospital? And they would.
I know. Oh my God, that's amazing.
You sent kids to college, you kept families in their homes, and everything that everybody saw on the show was only like 1/100th of it.
Right, exactly. It is innately my nature to be that way. Like it has been since I was a little kid. Like we won a bread album on a radio channel, WBLI, right after my mother died. So like 1973. And my brother, Danny, who was a year older than me, he's the one who won it. And the whole family, like it was the first thing we did after my mother died. We all got in the car together and we went to WBLI and we got a brand new record. And it felt unbelievable to me. Like everything bad that had happened was like, look at this moment of grace that we're getting. And so to give someone a moment of grace, to facilitate that in an actual real way, not like, can you hold up the Lolly Dolly doll now, right? In a real way. Then that's what was real about the show, was that everything was true, except for I did know the mystery guests. I have to admit.
Is that true? Oh, you did?
It is true. I did.
Well, you got to be prepared. You know what I mean?
Because you don't love a surprise, right?
I don't love a surprise.
Me neither.
No. I said, listen, I will fake anything you tell me to do, but I will not have you like, come on, like, you know how Ellen surprises everyone?
I hate it.
I've never done that show because I'm terrified she's going to scare me, give me a heart attack.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but a couple of years ago, she scared Kris Jenner, and that woman almost broke her leg. I'm telling you. It was like terrifying. Yeah. Chantira, you've seen it. We watched it together.
I don't like to be scared. I'll cry.
I was curious. I thought of you first I knew of you first as an actor. And like you are really talented and super, like every time you're in something, it's critically acclaimed. And I know this much is true. You're getting, of course, like obviously people love you on that. You're getting rave reviews for that. But Smilf, like you were like amazing. But when you decided to do the talk show, I was curious if you had, like, how that came to you. Had you guest hosted with Regis? In my head, that's how it happened.
That's exactly how it happened. I guest hosted with him. I had a new baby, my first baby.
Parker.
And
I remember.
I went to do a movie, Harriet the Spy, and I had to get a nanny because I hadn't had a nanny till then. And he was like, 8-9 months old. So I got my house cleaner, Maria. I asked her to come with me to the movie set to help take care of him. And when I came home after like the second day of 12 hours, he wouldn't come to me. He was staying with Maria, and I'm like, come here, boo-boo, come here. He would not come. And I thought, I need a job where he can grow up with his cousins and his family around him, where I'm going to be there every day to take him to school, to do, and then Kathie Lee said she was leaving Regis. She did it a lot. Remember, she would say that she was leaving. Well, one of these times happened to coincide with right after I filmed that movie, Harriet the Spy. So I called my agent and said, tell them I want Kathie Lee's job. So they called, and at the time I had done it a lot, and I loved Regis. I mean, I just loved him. But I said to my agent said, well, listen, Kathie Lee's not leaving, but they actually want to talk to you about doing your own talk show. And I was like, really? They were like, yeah. I was like, well, if I did it, I would have to do it like Mike Douglas and Merv Griffin, where nobody gets hurt. I used to watch those shows and think, oh my God, Toady Fields is going out to dinner right now with Sammy Davis and Merv and the comedian who was on. Like, I had this whole fantasy, right? And I thought that's where Hollywood was and where Hollywood lived. And it was not, what it is now. It's not like the internet. It's not everybody.
Clickbait and trying to get someone to say the wrong thing so that you can get a bunch of people to click on the article.
Exactly. And it's a whole different world. Like, I don't know how people stand it. There are people who, they live in that zone. And I guess, what the big pivot for me, because I know that's like a big theme.
It is,
guys, is when I left that show. Because I started that show because I had a son. And I left that show because I had 4 children under the age of 6.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. I did what my mother did every 2 years. Give me another one. And if my ex, Kelly, hadn't said, I'm not doing another one, there would be a lot more.
Oh, my God. You're like 8.
Yeah.
I get it. I have 2, but I have my thing is like when they're further apart and I miss the baby. I love a baby.
Yes, I love a baby, too.
It's incredible. So the pivot when you, after your 4th kid, to end the talk show, really kind of like it was still, I feel like it was a huge show still.
Yeah, it was.
You went out on top.
Rosie, I have this memory of like when they, when you announced that you were gonna sort of go off the air and, and we all knew that it wasn't a surprise. We all knew that it was coming. But I remember that we had like a rap meeting, like a staff rap meeting. And I feel like I used to always, or for whatever reason, we used to always end up sitting next to each other in big meetings. Right. And I remember our executive producer, Bernie Young, was talking to us about, the show's ending. Here's how this is going to go. And I remember you kept whispering to me, can you believe it's going to be over? What are we going to do?
Exactly. Because, and people were telling me, Jim Paratori told me, you will never have this much power. You will never have this much money. This is stupid for you to walk away. You could, have generational wealth. I said, my brother just told me that I have $100 million.
Jesus.
You know what that means? That means it's time for me to stop. Wow. I have enough money. I can't use money as the reason. But I had these 4 little children that my mother died at 39. Right. She never got to parent her children, So I left right at around the age that, like my oldest boy was about to turn 7. Parker was about to turn 7. And I jumped, and it took a while to get back to earth. And, when you jump, it makes everyone else in the plane question, why didn't they jump?
Right. Right.
And so you get a lot of slings and arrows coming at you. People, like people saying things that aren't true that get, and listen, Donald Trump didn't help with that, for me, and the all of the papers that he was coordinating with and, that whole insanity. But all that came after the show, because when you're on a show daily and people get to see you live, you're going to know that person.
Right. By the way, Caissie told me you don't love that View book, but I read it, the Ladies Who Lunch.
The View thing, right.
But I thought you came off really amazing in the book, and also, and like very truthful and honest and like owning your own shit, but also just being like, yeah, it was weird. They built like your personalities up on the show almost like in a narrative like way to pit you guys against each other to create this whole thing. That must have been like, I don't know. That must have just been wild after.
It was totally wild to do it the first time and then have the ratings go so high and have them asking, am I going to stay? Am I going to not? And so my agent and based on what I used to make on my own show, and, they asked for $5 million a year, which is not that much really if you're going to, for ABC.
Mm-hmm.
And
they got
didn't
it.
want to pay that. And I said, okay, then I'm going to go. Thank you anyway. I couldn't do more fighting with people for a living. And then after I had announced that I was going to go, that's when it got really bad.
Oh, man.
Because again, I was leaving. Like I was, leaving, but I couldn't do inauthenticity.
Right. But it also feels like you're somebody who is willing to stand up for what you believe in, like speak up for those who aren't able to speak up for themselves or help people out in that way. And that you feel injustice deeply and you won't stand for it. And that, to me, which is a really incredible characteristic, feels like it was just totally exploited.
It's hard when you're sensitive to take all the negativity that comes, I left right before we got into the war.
Right.
And thank God that was God protecting my psyche and myself, because that was not a good time for me.
No.
So I feel like when I said I was going to pivot out of my show, that was from the beginning. I told Caissie at the beginning, I'm doing 5 years, and I ended up doing 6. But I said, I'm telling you right now, I'm not doing more than 5 years because he'll be 6 years old and he has to go to school. So I always knew that was the truth. Other people on the staff didn't seem to believe it.
And I
Yeah.
really remember we would line up at your office to do a writer's meeting first thing in the morning, every morning, like 7:00. We had already been there for an hour coming up with pitches. And I remember executives cutting the line every morning when your end date was coming close, being like, we just have to get in there and talk to her for a second. And they were coming in there with checks. More and more money trying to convince you to stay. And every time we'd go in and we'd be like, what'd you tell him? And you were like, no, I said no.
I'm telling you, it was hard to do because there is something that it fills. There is some space in your life that it fills, but your perspective is so skewed as to what's important and what's valuable about you as a human being and just about being in the world as a participant, right? It was too much focus for not having a daily show, because if you have a daily show, you can't fake your essence,
Right.
You can't. And I think
you can't.
Well,
You
maybe
can't,
that's true.
Rosie.
I can't do that. Right.
Right.
And there's no amount of money or anything that could make me do that. That's why I have compassion for Ellen, right? I have compassion, even though, I hear the stories and I understand. I have my own kind of history with her. And
Right. Well, they just ripped your show off.
well, it wasn't my format. I didn't create it. They ripped off the Merv Griffin ripoff. But yeah,
So you're very humble.
I can't own the format. But was it weird that like my producers went over to her show and that then a lot of, it's odd. It's awkward. And then, it ended up I never did the show. And then people are like, why haven't you done the show?
I want to say a couple things that I hope aren't digressions. First of all, the original intent of the Rosie O'Donnell show, which I was there for from day one, might have been to emulate Merv Griffin. But Rosie, you innovated daytime television, period. You brought music back to television.
Oh no, I'm going to cry. To bring musical theater into the homes of people across the country who could only dream of going to New York City and seeing a Broadway show is so monumentally huge. I mean, do you know how many kids in like Ohio got to see these casts and no one's doing it still?
Every young waiter in New York says to me, oh my God, you don't understand. I'm from Utah.
Yes.
And I saw your show and Ragtime was singing and I'm just going, I'm here. I'm trying to be an actor. Like they do it all the time. And I did think when we were doing that, somewhere we're sparking the new Sondheim,
That's right.
new Lin-Manuel. We're sparking some kid somewhere. That
and
he's
beyond
grow up
that,
and be in this,
beyond that, all, the comedy, the games, the song parodies. Without you, I firmly believe there is no Jimmy Fallon. Without you, I believe there is no James Corden on late night.
100%.
And also just human interest. You made human interest a thing, and you made women's health a thing, and everything that was happening on camera that was inclusive and informative and was really, really funny, but had a lot of heart. The same thing was happening behind the scenes. Our executive producer was a Black man. Was he the first ever Black executive producer of a talk show? I don't know. But we had a fully inclusive staff. And, you know, when I got surprise pregnant when I was 26, I knew that there was a place I could keep my job and come to work every day and bring my baby there. You know, so you were doing a lot of things that it not just influenced, but like made my whole, I don't know, what my whole mission in life has been to continue to do things as well as you did them back then.
Oh, Caissie, that's so nice to hear. But here you were, this really intelligent woman who had been at David Letterman for all these years. And then you're like my assistant, and I think you're still a little shell-shocked. And I said, like, what's going on? And you're like, well, I'd really like to be a writer. I'm like, okay, let's do it, you know? Yeah. And you've succeeded and beyond. Look what you're creating now. This is a great, I love the show that you guys did. I watched it with my teenager.
Thank you.
My 17-year-old daughter, who's very into it. And it was great. I think, you know, it's hard for women, period. It's hard now for the, you know, but this is the greatest format, don't you find?
Yeah. Because we're all like, I don't even have pants on right now.
Right, exactly. But imagine if they would let you pick who you wanted to have that show. Imagine if they would let you make a new view, a really politically relevant view, a view that's not what it is on TV now, right? What it could be. What it was at one point, I think.
Wait, Rosie, are we doing this? Is that what we're doing, Caissie? I'm not kidding. Are we selling this? Oh my God, you guys! It's the next pivot.
It could be. You guys are. This is what I love to do. If I could do this every day for a living, I would do it. You know.
Early on, Rosie was a series regular on Gimme a Break, which was also like a little bit of a pivot, because I remember you used to tell this story about how you were doing stand-up and you knew some executives from NBC were coming to watch you.
Well, it's even better than that. It was Brandon Tarnikoff with Lorne Michaels and Cher.
Oh my God. Wow.
And, now, mind you, right, I'm a stand-up comic working at the Improv in LA. So I knew they came to see Dana, and I was friends with the waitresses at this tiny club called Igby's that's not open anymore. And I used to hang out there. It was sort of my home club. I loved it. It was small. I was friends with all the waitresses, so they held their checks because I was next. So they didn't drop the checks and so that they had to see me. So I went on and did
awesome.
That's genius.
From that, they called me in, and Brandon Tarnikoff walked over with Lorne Michaels and said, "You're a very special talent. We're going to do something with you. Call my office in the morning." So I called my sister and said, "I'm going to be on SNL." They were here for SNL. I'm going to be on SNL. I was convinced I was going to get to be on Saturday Night Live, but they said, "No, you're going to be on the Nell Carter Show." I was still thrilled because she had been in Ain't Misbehaving, which I saw on Broadway. So I was, you know, very excited to meet her, but she was in a very bad place when we were doing that. You know,
she was really sick.
She was really sick, and she had gone through some addiction issues and some custody issues, and she was unhappy, and it was very, very hard to be around. That's something that sometimes like is trippy to me. You know, I like sitting in my home with my kids at the pool, you know, trying to get Dakota to not be afraid of the cave. You know, I mean, that's what my day entails. But then I think, or I look on, you know, TV, or I see a brilliant performance, and I go, I know them.
I think one of the things I really love, too, about the stories you're telling and the experiences that you've had is that in this industry, people will have like a good experience or a bad experience, and you took the situations and the experiences that you had, and you said this earlier, and you came at everybody who worked for you with grace. Being kind, you being the type of person to go into a comedy club and knowing that those people deserve grace, they drop the check for you, and guess what? Everybody wins. So I think that you have such longevity because you were a kind person.
Yeah. Charles Grodin wrote a great book about this. It would be so nice if you weren't here is the name of it. But, it was just so spectacular about treating the janitor the same way as he treats the CEO, which worked really well with janitors, but not so much with CEOs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so he talks about his career in show business and how we forget, when I was on the height of my show, like it was a very trippy experience. It wasn't like anything close to real life. You get mass adulation from the multitudes every day, like a shot of heroin in your arm. You get people clapping for your very existence and then telling you how you changed and altered their life. And it's a lot to take in. And when I stepped away, I knew that this was all I could take. Right.
How did you deal with it? What was your coping mechanism?
When I stopped?
Yeah.
You quit the heroin.
You quit the heroin. So what's your methadone?
Well, I started painting. I do very large paintings, and my brother said we have them all in storage and nobody really wants them. And what do you want to do with them?
Painting was the secret to detoxing
Sure,
from...
I think that from fame, from that high level of, anything, are you hungry? And you get 17 options,
Right.
Yeah.
You want to taste this new ice cream? They just flew it in from Hawaii for you, it was like a never-ending smorgasbord in Vegas,
Yeah.
Guys, at the Rosie O'Donnell show, one day Rosie said on the show that she liked Krispy Kreme donuts, and we didn't just get Krispy Kreme donuts. We got the whole fucking machine that made the Krispy Kreme donuts hot, like the hot donut conveyor belt.
Oh, that's so delicious.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it
just
was,
from her mentioning.
Yeah. So, that was a lot of, and that drains on your soul, it pulls you away from your true path and essence. And, you can start to overlook things.
Well, my husband was saying this interesting thing. He's like, they always expect women in power to not just be the boss, but to also be the mom.
But I think you suffered from that a little bit too, Rosie. One of the things I always was surprised about is people would be like, Rosie's tough, like she's a tough boss. And I was like, no, actually, like I've worked in a nursing home. I've worked in retail. I've had tough bosses. She's direct. And she's has a vision, and she wants us to carry out this vision, and she's right about the vision. So, so it's really weird that you're painting that as tough, because I love instructions, that I think I don't know if you remember this about me. I love instructions. I love to be told this is how I want it, and then I'll bust my ass to make it how you want it. And so I always loved that you would be like directly, this is what I want, X, Y, Z. Can you do it? Great, go do it. Right. So I never saw that as tough, but I think because you were a woman, and I think whenever you were crowned the queen of nice. So whenever the show was over and you took off the crown and had your sweatpants on and we were getting to work, people who worked with us would be like, oh, she's not like smiling and laughing. And I'd be like, no, she's fucking doing business.
She's working. Exactly.
She's doing business. Like we're all doing business.
Like we're all trying.
We're trying. Rosie, I know that you said that it was a weird experience to have people come to you in adulation and tell you that how you changed their lives. But you allow me to be one more person to say that I just want to tell a quick story, and maybe we'll cut it out, but maybe we'll tell it. When I was first made a writer on your show, and I had come to your show as your assistant, and I annoyed Rosie as an assistant, and she like fired/promoted me to a better job because you said, you were like, you're irritating to me. Your style of being an assistant is irritating to me, but I like you and I want you to stay here. So I got another job. And then when a writing position opened, I was made a writer, and it was my dream come true. My dream come true came true when I was 23 years old. Like, I didn't have any ambition beyond that to be a writer. And so I would go in to pitch every morning, and my hands would shake and my voice would shake. And you knew me a little bit already. And you asked our head writer, like, what's the deal with Caissie? Like, we know each other. Why is she like shaking? Like, she can barely speak. And so our head writer, Jeanette Barber, was like, well, you know how like writers are on 13-week contracts. And you were like, no, I actually don't know. Explain to me what that is. And so she said, everybody is only hired for 13 weeks at a time. And she's already a couple weeks in. And I'm sure, like everyone, she's very nervous that in 11 weeks, this could all be over. And, she's starting from square one. And you said to Jeanette, oh, okay, then do me a favor. Go to the show's lawyers, pick up her contract for 2 years, then go to her and tell her to relax and learn how to do this job. And that changed my life. You used your power to change my life. And I know that you did it for so many other people.
Well, I love you, Caissie. That's very, very sweet and touching of you to say. And, we had a good thing there. I got to say, we had a really good thing. And I loved all the staff, and I was happy for the 6 years. The years that came after it were tough. They were tough to get my descent back to earth. But that's where I want to be, is on earth. And I still have a very privileged life and a very, I'm still reaping the benefits of that show financially. I will for the rest of my life. My children will. I was very, very lucky. Everything came together perfectly,
We were lucky too.
Huh.
We were lucky to get to watch it.
I was.
Rosie, thank you so much.
Well, it's very fun to do anytime you want me.
I mean, we're selling the real View, man. That's like,
That's it. Go sell it. I tell them I'm on board.
okay. Euphoria. Guys, I mean, listen, we are forever Euphoria ambassadors. We love Euphoria so much. We love them because we love that even if you're like, I'm having good sex, Euphoria's like, guess what? What if I told you it could be better? Listen, they have products like the Awaken Arousal Oil and the Sex Oil. And people who may not think they need extra help in the bedroom are going to be very pleasantly surprised by just how much better, more pleasurable your experience can be. Like, imagine the best orgasm or sex you've ever had. Now imagine it could be even better with products that were designed to naturally enhance sexual pleasure and give you access to bigger and better orgasms, solo or with a partner. Euphoria is using all natural and plant-based ingredients to intensify sexual pleasure and relieve discomfort. They have a serious cult following with tens of thousands of people who have had their sex lives literally transformed through their products. We read it before. I'm going to read it again just because I enjoy it. A real testimonial on their website is, and I quote, "My wife and I use the Sex Oil and Awaken, and when she gets on top, we both come so hard, we see sounds and hear colors. Sir, tip of the hat to you." Euphoria makes products that'll transform your sexual pleasure, especially if you have a vagina or if you're loving someone that has a vagina. The Awaken Arousal Oil uses CBD and warming, sensation-inducing organic botanicals that enhance arousal, sensitivity, pleasure, access to orgasm, and help with any discomfort. And best of all, it just turns you on. Used together, Awaken's Arousal Oil and the Sex Oil are the perfect combo for peak pleasure. So yes, you have our permission to try this. Please try it. We fully endorse you to go ahead, treat yourself to more, deeper, fuller pleasure wherever you can find it and as often as possible. And you can start with a bottle of Euphoria. Euphoria is offering a special deal just for our listeners. Get 20% off your first order by visiting euphoриawellness.com/best or use code BEST at checkout. That's FORIA wellness.com/best for 20% off your first order. I very much recommend trying their Awaken Arousal Oil and the Sex Oil. You're going to thank us. Oh, Sundays. I just actually fed Gina Linetti Sundays. She loves it. It's healthy dog food, but it's actually easy to store and serve. You don't have to worry about remembering to defrost something or where something is or how you, like, did you touch it? And then now you got, there's all kinds of things with the dog food these days, but not with Sundays. Sundays is air-dried dog food made from a very short list of human-grade ingredients. Co-founded by Dr. Tori, a practicing veterinarian, Sundays contains 90% meat, 10% vegetables, 0% synthetic nutrients. And other than USDA beef and all-natural chicken, there's digestive aids like pumpkin and ginger, plus disease-fighting antioxidants. Listen, Gina loves Sundays. And I love it because I know it's good quality, the best quality, and it's zero stress for me, zero mess. It's shelf stable. So I don't have to worry. And every order ships right to my door, which is, the best part for me. I never worry about running out of food. Sundays also, let me tell you, cost 40% less than other healthy dog food brands because they don't waste money on shipping frozen packages. And instead they spend on what matters, sourcing the best all-natural ingredients for your beloved puppy. We worked out a special deal for you, our dog-loving listeners. Try it out. See if your dog likes it as much as Gina Linetti. Get 35% off your first order of Sundays. Go to sundaysfordogs.com/busy or use code BUSY at the checkout. That's sundaysfordogs.com/busy and upgrade your pup to Sundays. Feel good about the food you feed your dog. We love you, Sundays. Caissie only knows legends. All of the guests that Caissie's booking are people are like, how the fuck did you get Rosie O'Donnell on your podcast? And I'm like, Caissie St. Ange. And people are going to be, I'm telling you right now, people are going to be like, how the fuck did Busy Phillips get David Letterman on her podcast? And guys, look no further than his one-time assistant many moons ago when she was just a wee tyke. She called herself feral, I believe. Was plucked from obscurity into more obscurity as David Letterman's assistant. So guys, we talked to David Letterman. It was a real trip. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, Dave.
Hi. Your name's right there. Is my name up there?
It is. It says Dave.
That's me.
That's you. We know who you are. And I'm Busy Phillips.
You're in New York, Manhattan?
I'm in New York. Yeah, I'm in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
I have lived in LA for over 20 years. I moved out there for college and then started working as an actor and have a house and all that. And then I had to get out. And so now I'm in New York.
When you said you had to get out of LA, what does that mean?
It's a long story, Dave. But a change of scenery is always good for a person.
Okay, I'm sorry. You brought it up. I'm sorry.
I did. But wait, when did you live in North Hollywood?
I moved in 1975. Was my first residence in LA. It was 1975 at right off Lankershim and Miranda. Lankershim and Miranda. I lived near the Nudies, the country western store. Legendary country western store.
Yes.
I've taken my girls there when they were horseback riding for a minute and a half to get all outfitted. And then, of course, they gave that up and we had all the gear. So that was fun.
How many girls do you have?
I have two. I have a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Caissie, what about your kids?
Oh, they're great. Eli is 21 and he's...
Jesus Christ!
I know. He's living in Connecticut.
What does he do?
He is a college student, also distance learning. And
where does he go?
He goes to Southern Connecticut State University, but he'll just say New Haven if you ask him and let you make your own conclusion.
So we're supposed to think it's Yale?
Yeah. And then my younger son, Lincoln, is 18, and he's here with us in Los Angeles, and he just graduated from Eagle Rock High School, and he's going to Cal State LA this semester, but also from his bedroom.
And Shantira, do you have kids?
Oh no, I absolutely 100% want 0 children. I want to be a fun Black aunt. I want to like come around for Christmas and Thanksgiving, give the kids like $100 and then leave. Drink a cocktail, give you $20, tell them that they're my favorite and leave.
What is your favorite cocktail?
I'm very into bourbon. I like a bourbon neat.
Yeah, there you go. You know what I dislike, and I don't drink, but I dislike somebody who says bourbon and then like butterscotch syrup or something. And it's like, what? Sorry, what? And I'm like, what?
My parents are like your biggest fans. We only watched you growing up. I would pretend that I was Terry Garr. It was my dream was to be Terry Garr in all the ways, but especially when she was on your show. And
was tremendous, just a tremendous actress and a lovely person. And she really helped us become established because she was well regarded. And just by virtue of her being on our show, that helped us greatly.
Well, and you guys had such an amazing chemistry together. You played off of each other so incredibly well.
Well, she was the kind of person that made everybody look better.
Oh, that's the nicest thing that anyone could say about a person, I think. In those early days, like when you say like she really helped us out, like when you started with the Late Show, was it like touch and go? Did you think like this isn't gonna last? Or
yes, I did because I had done one other show for NBC and it didn't last, and I think everybody understands the trauma of losing one's livelihood, especially if that's all one ever wanted to do, and then starting up again. It takes a while to lose that trepidation.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You're talking about the morning show.
Yes, it was on for a week.
No way, really? They gave you 1 week?
About a week, yeah.
And what was the reason? They're like, you'll work better late night. People don't understand what you're talking about. What did they say?
It just sucked.
That's not true.
Why?
It was a very good show.
I don't believe
he's
that.
He's lying.
No, yeah, sadly you can't see any evidence of it, and that was true when it was on.
And then you get this show, but they gave you had a lot of time. Was it always pressure? I don't remember. I watched that HBO movie in like the 90s, but I don't remember it, The Late Night Wars. Sorry. I don't remember.
That movie is there's two reasons I don't like HBO. You want to hear them both?
Yes.
Of course. Yes, please.
Okay. Well, one time I was in New York City and I had no money on me, just had no money. I'd spent it getting drunk, and I needed money to get a cab to get to the airport, and all I had was a checkbook. Now, Shantira, you're probably not old enough to remember checkbooks.
I do.
I was one of those guys. If you still had checks in the checkbook, you assumed you still had money. Well, that's not the way they work. So anyway, I go to the Improv, and the guy who was the bartender, and I won't mention his name here, but later went on to become the head of HBO. And so it's 11 o'clock at night at the Improv. I have no money. I had been on the Tonight Show. I thought, well, the Improv might know that I'm good for a $10 check because, I'd been on Major League TV. So I walked in there. Oh, hi, you're so-and-so. I'm so-and-so. Yeah, nice to see you. Listen, I have no money. I got to get to the airport. Can I write a $10 check? And he said, no. Okay. Reason number one that I hate HBO.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, wouldn't take a $10 check. The second one was one of you invoked that miserable movie. Who was it? Yeah,
That was me.
Thanks, Busy. So they had me at my home on the weekend, and they had set up an archery target, and me standing like 50 feet from the archery target, throwing softballs at it. This is something you'd only see in a very, very inexpensive carnival. a very, like a church-sponsored carnival might have this event. In my lifetime, I've never thrown softballs at an archery target. That's reason number 2. And I think you'll all back me up.
Dave, I worked for you when that movie came out.
Oh, yeah.
I remember you being like, coming in and being like, did you watch that? And I was like, I might have watched like a couple minutes of it. And then later in the day, you called me into your office and you were like, hey, come in here. I got to ask you something. I don't walk like that, do I?
I hate it though. I've had several comedian up and coming improv women who have done me, and they always fucking get it wrong, and it drives me insane because they just go straight Valley Girl and make me sound like a fucking idiot. And the truth is my voice is actually very deep, and my parents are from Chicago, and I have like a hard A. I guess it's not always the most flattering portrayals that people go for.
You know what? I don't know you well. Just let this go.
Yeah, got it.
Just let this go. You know,
Let it
life is short.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you for.
It's been a lot of fun. I got to mow the yard. Goodbye.
Dave, it was so nice when you made that video for me when my show was canceled. Oh no, I'm going to cry. It made me, it really meant a lot to me. And it also, I think, clearly, because you didn't know who the fuck I was before Caissie or somebody told you, it really speaks so much to how wonderful our friend Caissie St. Ange is, and how much you must have enjoyed her working for you all those years ago.
I can say many things about this. One of the best things that happened to me is the show ended, because it transformed me back to an actual human being. Because when I was in the eye of the storm, and by the way, it was not calm the way the eye of a storm is, but when I was in the storm of doing a nightly show for how many years we did
33?
Yeah, it warps one's view physically, emotionally, and in every way humanly possible. It changes a person. When I stopped doing the show, I began reflecting on the humanity of what that experience must have been for others. And it filled me with a lot of fun memories. And then also I began to realize that I didn't get to know some of the people the way I would like to have known them, and probably would have in another walk of life. And Caissie, I believe, falls into that latter category. And through kind of reflecting on the show, I began to know more about Caissie's role at the show. And it was because of that connection, that and your hard A's, that I was happy to help out.
I would like to say something, because you and I have actually talked, since the show ended, and you're a busy guy. You know everyone in the world. The amount of people that I know and who have influenced my life is certainly smaller. And I appreciate you saying like it wasn't perfect, because it certainly wasn't. It was a wild time, but I was also basically feral when I came to work for you. I was raised...
That was on the application. Check here if you're feral.
It kind of was. I don't know how much you remember, but I basically had been rejected for an internship, And then I suddenly got a call saying like, oh no, it turns out that somebody does want you to come to this show and work for them. And it was you in your office. And so I just came from this farm with shit on my shoes to New York City to work for you. I remember interviewing with you and you said, the only thing I really care about is, can you drive a stick shift? And I was like, no, sir, I cannot drive a stick shift. And so I was like, well, that's it. My ship is sailing by. But so then you picked me and I came, and when I got up the courage to say like, hey, by the way, why did you pick me when I couldn't do the one thing that you wanted your intern to do? You were like, oh, this girl has a weird name. She went to a terrible school. I had met you and I thought like, okay, so she can't drive my car to put gas in my car, but she seems smart and she'll figure it out. And so like you having that faith in me that I would figure it out was a really big deal. And so, yes, it was a storm. It was a crazy time. And there's a lot of things that I would change about the way things were done in that time, not just with our show, but every show. But also you did give me a shot.
Well, you're being very generous. And what I would like to underline is I wish I had stronger, better, and different relationships with the people who were nice enough to put up with me. So thank you.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to say. I learned so much there. That's what, now I'm going to cry. I learned a lot there. And so I think it's right for all of us to sort of acknowledge and answer for the way we could have done things better. Yeah. But truly, I did learn a lot there. You know,
well, I mean, it's amazing to me how much of life was ignored because of my ridiculous, selfish commitment to doing a daily show.
What was that though? Is that just in you? Is that the way that you thought it could only be that way?
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. I mean, you must have had, once you're given a show,
yeah,
especially if you've had one taken away from you,
yeah,
you want to make damn sure that you're concentrating on the project at hand.
For sure.
And I did it to a fault, where everything else was excluded. And I have regrets about that.
Do you have a top 10 list of regrets about it?
Yeah, I got to go. Thanks.
I mean, Dave, like I didn't have as much of a choice. I don't think Jimmy or James. Is the other guy's name Jimmy too?
James. It's James, but you can call him Jimmy.
Or Seth, my friend Seth. It does feel all encompassing though at that network level, but I feel like maybe that's coming from another place and put on you.
Well, I felt, and I'll just say this, and then we'll go on to something far more interesting. I felt a lot of pressure, because of Carson was the role model. Carson was the standard, and I felt like I never quite lived up to that. So I felt pressure there. I was on opposite Jay Leno, who was doing better ratings-wise than was I. I felt pressure there. And I'd had one show canceled out from under me, so I felt pressure there as well. And then we had gone from NBC, where they were used to this day part succeeding, to CBS, which had not had much luck recently in this day part, and knew nothing about CBS, so I felt pressure there. But these are all just excuses. I'm telling you, if I had met either of the three of you, and I was working at the Foot Locker, you would have found me to be a different person, right. Perhaps the actual person I am. God, if I could get that gig at Foot Locker.
I mean, I might know someone.
I have a question, because your Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee was the year before you announced your retirement from your show. And I wondered if that was like the first time where you had an experience where you're like, well, there's a world where I'm not killing myself and at the, price of all other, but I could still talk to interesting people and do a different kind of thing.
No, I was not aware of it prior. It took me 6 months into the retirement to figure that out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just assumed that the person I was every day for 33 years was the person I was.
Right.
And I think now back on things that happened, and some of the experiences are just, I don't know, remarkable. And I wish they hadn't happened and they happened because of things I did. I'm sorry about that. But once everything settles down and you see the world and you see your family and you see what's going on, I was still armored, and then the armor falls away and you begin to understand yourself, others, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, ways you would rather be, mistakes you made, and on and on. It's a lot of introspection, and with most introspection, it's only interesting to the person who's introspecting.
Well, I think that it's very interesting because obviously you are a huge part of American culture. We've talked to Rosie O'Donnell too, and like both of you are very important in this culture. You don't have to be introspective. You don't have to be better. Like, it's great that you're doing it, but the way that this world is set up, like if you decided just to be a piece of shit, people would be like, okay. And I think that it's cool for you to be like, you know what? I didn't like that about myself. I thought about it. And I am going to spend the rest of my time really being better. And also that you're the second person who said that once my show was over, I really enjoyed coming back to earth and meeting myself. And I think that that's really cool.
That's very kind of you. And you, what's inconsistent about this whole thing is at a certain point in your life, this is all you want to do.
Right.
You can't afford glassware. Honest to God, where are you drinking from?
Everybody drinks out of mason jars now, Dave. It's hipster. It's cool.
What's in there?
Water.
Oh, okay.
Well, Dave, you're such a good storyteller. I know that you've talked about like this really big pivotal moment of retiring and regrets that you have. And you've given me an opportunity to say, that I learned a lot. And I admire you. And I also got in trouble when that biography was written about you. Because
really?
because I wouldn't say, the author took me out to lunch and I wouldn't say anything bad about you. And then he was like, Dave actually told me worse things about himself than you're saying here. And I was like, got my free turkey burger, got a lecture by the
But
author.
also, I felt like that's how I knew I could really trust Caissie. Is like she didn't talk shit about you or Rosie or, oh my God, what's his name?
Andy Cohen.
Yes, Andy Cohen.
She talked so little about Andy, you forgot his name.
I didn't even remember it. Just
But
kidding,
still-
Andy.
It's remarkable. It's an unusual trait in this day and age, and I think unusual to humanity generally. So thank you.
She's the best.
I just feel like if there's something that I want to say to you, maybe I'll say it to you, but there's no need for me to say it in a book. Not just about you.
Thank you.
Anybody. But you're a great storyteller. So why don't you tell us a story about a pivot in your life that we might not be familiar with?
Well, I was in prison.
What? You were not.
No,
6 years.
that's not true.
Yes, it is.
No. When?
Federal penitentiary in Kansas.
David
6
Letterman.
years in prison. Hard time, too. It wasn't one of those country club prisons that everybody goes to these days. A lot of things a man doesn't like to talk about.
That's fair.
I bet.
Just the driest, I bet. Okay.
But for real, I feel like I know pivot stories about you. Do you have like a fun one? Like, I love this story about when you were tapped to like guest host a game show. Do you remember this one?
Yeah. This was a great story right up until the end of the story. But in those days, everything's different but I'm a product of the Comedy Store, which now is a completely different place, a completely different enterprise, and is tremendous, plays a tremendous part in the success of big comedy stars. But when I was there, it was just me and a bunch of dopes telling our jokes. And so to augment, we got no money in those days. A guy named Tom Dreesen, a very good friend of mine, had all connections where he knew of production companies that needed stand-ins, fill-ins, dummies, extras. And so one week we would go out and we would be in a commercial for Dodge, and the next week we'd be at a game show run-through. So that's how the game show stuff began. There was a guy named Ron Green, I believe, who was a game show producer, and we would come and try out his game show. He said, here's my idea, and here's what we're going to do, and you'll be the celebrities, and you'll be the contestant. And we got paid $7 a day for this. And that was great because, that was gas and anything else. And you do it for a couple of weeks, and it's extra money. And it was through that. I did it, and Jay Leno did it, and Elaine Boozler did it, and Tom Dreesen did it, and Johnny Dark did it, and I think Jeff Altman did it, and many other people that I knew were. Shirley Hemphill was part of this. Anyway, so you work your way up. They think, oh, geez, that went pretty well. And if the show gets produced, you maybe get to be a part of it. So a couple of years after doing these game show run-throughs, they had a pilot they were going to do, and they said, Dave, you get to be the host of this pilot. Now, we're not saying you'll be, if the show gets picked up, we're not saying you'll be the guy, but we want you to do the pilot. And I said, well, in the nascent part of your career, you're agreeable to stuff because you don't know. Sure. And so we're standing backstage, and I'm kind of excited. And I'm standing next to Joanne Worley, who was the celebrity guest on that show. And they're getting ready to introduce me. And she says, wow. She said, you're hosting a game show. And I said, yeah. And she says, well, good luck. That's the only thing you'll ever do the rest of your life. And suddenly all of this excitement went to paralyzing dread, because I thought, oh my God, she's right. all I will do is be a game show host. Now,
also rude.
I was going to say, also, I don't know Joanne Worley, but rude.
Rude. Like, read the room. You're trying to have a nice time.
Maybe it was rude. I
No, it was like a bitchy actress thing to do.
Well, anyway, no, they didn't pick it up, and I went on to other things. But if you look at that Pat Sajak, I mean, this guy he used to be the weatherman at KNBC, and very funny, very, very funny. And I think he had a late night show at CBS as well.
He did
for a very short time.
I remember.
He's been on that Wheel of Fortune, for like 40 years.
Yes,
and it just shows with barely a personality what you can do. Yeah, so I don't know, Caissie, that story. But I don't know if it was pivotal. It was only frightening. I was scared silly that, oh gosh, in pursuing something that I thought was fun and beneficial, may have just collapsed around me like a burning building.
But you were doing stand-up and stuff. Was a late night show always what you wanted to do? I mean, I know you were a weatherman and you had so a late night show was always the goal. You were like Merv Griffin and
or a talk show, because I can't do anything else.
Right.
I can't act.
Sure.
You were great in Mork and Mindy.
One of the worst experiences of my life. I remember the final. When they do a dress rehearsal show, and then they do the real show, and in between Howard Storm, somebody like that was the director, a very well known director in the world of situation comedies, and I'm in the makeup chair for the real show, and he says, we've been doing this all week. You have one last chance to get it right.
No. Dave, I think there's two things that you've brought up that have been very wild to me is the cost of things. Like $7 a day is like what minimum wage is now. But when you wrote the check for $10 to go to the airport, if you're in the airport in New York, it costs $5 to get to your plane. So
Dave, here I'll say something about you. When I worked for you, God bless you, you were so out of touch with how much things cost. Because you would be like, "Can you go get me a pair of jeans?" Like I ripped my jeans. "Can you go buy me a pair of jeans?" And you'd give me like $11 cash, and I'd be like, "When was I talking about jeans?"
But by the way, so that might be the truth of the Comedy Store guy who ended up being the head of HBO. He was like, fucking $10 to get to JFK? No, dude.
By the same
drug
token,
addict.
Yeah. Sometimes you'd be like, I'm craving some soup. Will you go get me soup? And then give me like $200. And I'd be like, all right, I hope he says keep the change.
I remember at some point I had recently changed residences in Manhattan and had no bedding. And there was a young woman who was, I think, an intern, very nice kid. And her goal of the day was to go buy sheets. And she went and came back and said, here's your sheets. And I said, oh, geez, that's great. Thank you. How much were they? And she said, $3,000.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I said, I had the same reaction. I didn't know sheets cost $3,000.
I mean, they can.
They
I don't know if I
They can
will.
also cost $30.
Yeah.
Or guys, there's
Why would they? Why $3,000?
Thread count.
Thread
Count name
count.
brand. And even thread count, it could just be a
Well,
name brand.
I'm all about thread count.
Yeah.
So, Dave, it's 2020. There's a pandemic. You retired, but now you have this Netflix show. What's your life like? What's happening?
The Netflix show has been great, a wonderful experience for me, and I hope for the people that we worked with. I hope it was an altogether different experience than my previous show, but it's been a lot of fun, and I would like to continue doing something like that. I got to meet people that just really, really impressive, people that I knew of but didn't know, and that experience for me has been great because we can. I like talking to them about things that we have in common and things we don't have in common. And it's been greatly beneficial for me therapeutically, emotionally, to talk to these other people that are wildly successful and find out what they are as actual human beings, not just show business figures. So that's been great.
Is that part of the introspection of the time after this show where you're trying to figure your own self out in a way?
I think so, but also it's the old show, as you would know, you got 6, 8, 10 minutes maybe, and good night.
Yeah. I think that's one thing interesting about you, and I've said that people ask about you all the time. What's he really like, and what was that experience really like? And I always do say that you were a very paternal figure. So I hope you give yourself at least a little bit of credit for that, in between being introspective. But I feel like you were very protective of me, sometimes in a hilarious way.
Yeah.
You hated my boyfriend. I don't know if you remember that. He worked at VH1, and you'd always be like, what is he, a VJ? His hair's insane. I do not like the sight of him. But we're married. He's the father of my children.
Oh my God, Matt!
Yes. And then also, I don't know if you remember this, but we were here in Los Angeles doing The Late Show out of CBS Television City, and you had gone to rehearsal, and you came back from rehearsal, and you were like, Caissie, get in here. I want to talk to you about something. And I was like, oh God, what did I do? Am I in trouble? So I went into your office, and you were like, sit down. You know how guys are. There's a lot of young guys that work on this show, and they like to gossip and talk just as much as anyone. And I heard a lot of the guys talking about how they were going to go to a tattoo parlor tonight and get tattoos. And, because they're legal here and they're not legal in New York City. And then they got around to saying hey, should we invite Caissie? And one of the guys said, we can invite her. She'll probably go. She already has a tattoo. And you were like, so I just want you to know that some guys that work here are spreading a rumor that you have a tattoo. And then I was like, I do. Do you want to see it? And you were like, no. Do your parents know? Oh my God, did you get this on my watch?
Oh my God, that's so cute.
It's like I'm the youth minister. Rapping with the kids. Jesus, what an asshole.
No, it's nice.
It made me laugh so hard. And you were just, I remember you saying like, your parents let you come to New York and entrusted me to like make sure that you're okay here in the big city. And then you're like, I find out that you get a tattoo. And I was like, I got this tattoo when I was 18 years old. My mom also has a tattoo.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about something else. I had to have you come in and sit down and talk it over. Yes. Thank you, Father Dave.
It was very funny to me and endearing. I liked that you cared that the boys were talking about me.
Can I just say, though, this? Because I started in entertainment when I was 19 years old. So I appreciate it.
Well, that's good. It's glad that has filtered into the system, and this is a few years ago, but that's great.
Well, that was so long ago. But wait, did you ever feel like that kind of responsibility? Like for Caissie,
No.
You didn't think you did. You weren't paying attention. That was just something that happened.
No, I honestly, I was just, like I said earlier, I was so focused on, is this show going to be okay? What did I screw up tonight? What did I screw up last night? And that just fed on itself. And I just went day to day oblivious to most things except the show. And, that's the source of what I shouldn't have behaved that way. And I don't know. I think if you have the kind of ego that needs to go into show business, that's the way you're going to behave.
Well,
interesting.
or, you just needed more love from your parents. Hi, how you doing? My name is Busy Phillip. Dave, when you were leaving your show, did they ask you who you thought should get it? Did any women occur to you?
No. I announced that I was leaving Monday. They hired Stephen Colbert.
Really?
I said goodbye on a Friday. Monday, Stephen had the job. So no, there's not a great deal of, let's get Dave up here and see what he thinks. No, that didn't happen. I was out the door.
That seems weird to me.
Yeah, me too. I thought so. And then people started telling me. I remember being at the Kennedy Airport with my family, and some guys.
How much did it cost you to get to that airport?
Well, $10, really. So guys come up to me and they're holding seats, theater seats, like 4 or 5 of them. They each have 2 or 3, and they want me to sign the theater seats. And I said, well, I don't. He said, well, we took these out of your theater because they had been tossed into a dumpster. So the next day they started demolishing the set and throwing the stuff out on the sidewalk.
That broke my heart because that set was so beautiful. Kathleen Ankers had built that
Kathleen
set.
Ankers, God bless her. Yeah, but I understand that the facility now is they found things that had been covered up in the remodeling that we did that. It's just even lovelier now. But yeah, I felt like, anyway, no, they didn't ask me about other people. But I now looking at it, we have all of the people that you named, and I know and like all of them, but, it would have been cool if we had a woman in one of those seats. And, it's I remember the first time being on an airplane, and the captain was a female, and you thought, oh, Jesus, a woman, are we going to be all right? What's going to happen now? And of course, yeah, everything is fine, and there's no reason.
Well, I would hope so.
But it's the same way with an 11:30 talk show. What's the problem?
The culture obviously seems like it skews so male. And I think it has to do with, who runs the networks and the studios and shit. But I just wondered, did you have like a woman that you could point to and be like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, we had quite a few women on the staff in positions of power, creative power and administrative power. And we talked about this all the time. I don't know how many executive producers we had that were women. And it just, I relied on them heavily because they seemed to have, a better sense of what was going on than I did. Yeah, and it came to me later than it should have. But I don't know why others weren't more aware of that at the time. But, it worked out okay, except if you're a woman.
That is true. That's one thing I want to say, because I think that all late night shows, that's always a conversation about, there's not enough women, particularly writing the comedy and hosting the comedy. But at Late Show, Jude Brennan, Barbara Gaines, Maria Pope, Kathy Mavrakakis,
Gina Rogers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So just
did Nell Scoville write?
Nell Scoville was a writer early at late night, but for a very short time.
Right.
But you guys still talk to each other, Dave, right? You and Nell?
Yes. We exchanged emails about a year ago, so we're pretty close.
We're very tight.
And of course, I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about Meryl Marcoux, but she was instrumental in sort of shaping the original show, correct?
Yes, absolutely. She and I were, as the kids say, romantically involved. We hooked up.
Oh, okay. Now I understand.
Now we get it.
Yeah,
now I get it.
And very, very funny, very smart. And we were kind of doing her show. And all I was kind of worried about was if I had an idea, I would take it to Meryl. But she came up with stupid human tricks, stupid pet tricks, and a lot of the video pieces we did in those days, she was responsible for. She was fantastically creative and prolific, and she was in charge of the writers. So I never really had to worry about it. And
do you ever feel like you work best under pressure? Is that who you are? Like, do you work?
Yeah, I like to think I work best under pressure. And then I remember they asked me to host the Academy Awards, and that kind of changed my impression of how I am under pressure.
I remember that.
To be fair, it still will not go down in history as being the worst. So,
hey, thanks for the
You're
old
welcome.
back.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh. I remember you flew right to London. I watched it in London because we were doing the show from Thames Studios in London. And so I'd been there for a couple weeks. And I remember getting up at whatever ridiculous time to watch the Oscars and then just being like, it doesn't seem like he's enjoying this. I don't feel like. And then I went out first thing in the morning and bought a rugby ball because I was like, this will cheer him up. When he lands, I'm going to ask him if he wants to have a catch with this rugby ball.
Did you, did Rosie ever take you to London?
Not to London.
And Busy, did you ever take Caissie to London?
I took her to a fancy resort in Mexico.
That's nice.
Not for the show, just for fun because we're friends. Just for fun.
Dave, I have a very sweet photo of you and I chatting on the Thames. We were standing on the bridge chatting in London, and I love it. It's one of my favorite photos, and I love it because I remember that it looks like we're having the deepest conversation in the world, and we're talking about bologna sandwiches.
Right there. That's the story of me. I want to talk to you about something. Yeah, what is it, Dave? You ever had a bologna sandwich?
Dave, thank you so much for doing this podcast, but also thank you so much for, giving me a shot when I was feral.
Well, Caissie, you're so kind, and it's just exactly what I talked about earlier. Your impression of your time there is mostly new to me and surprisingly positive. So I can't thank you enough for that. And Busy, what can I say about you?
I don't know.
And Shantara, God bless you. Get a car.
I mean, if you buy me one, I'll get it.
Oh, Dave!
Say that.
Send her a car, Dave.
I'm not buying anybody a car. Unplug this thing.
David Letterman, thank you.
Thank you very much, Missy.
So much.
Shantara, Caissie, thank you.
Stay
Bye-bye.
safe. Bye-bye.
All right,
Bye.
turn this thing off now. How do you turn it off?
She'll turn it off.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, Thrive Cosmetics. We love you so much. Just really love Thrive. I gotta say, I've talked enough, right, about the liquid lash extensions mascara. You know how much I love it, how obsessed I am with it. I mean, like, I find tubes of that mascara, I'm not kidding, like all over because I buy so many. So I never want to be without. I love it so much. It literally looks like I'm wearing lash extensions. People cannot believe what my lashes look like when I am wearing that liquid lash extensions mascara. But also, I love the sheer strength hydrating lip tint because it's very hydrating with a like little hint of a tint that applies evenly, lasts up to 6 hours. It's very effortless. You don't have to have a mirror, glides on smoothly. There are 6 different tints to choose from, but it's very lightweight. It's balmy. It's non-sticky. It just is like, I don't know. I just love it. I love that. For me, honestly, those 2 products, the sheer strength hydrating lip tint, liquid lash extensions mascara, that's all you need. It's all you need. I love them both so much. And I just love Thrive Cosmetics. You know, it's 100% certified vegan, cruelty-free beauty products made with clean, skin-loving ingredients, no parabens, no sulfates, no phthalates, all without compromising performance. But also, they have the word cause, C-A-U-S-E, in their name for a reason. It's a part of their mission. Every purchase supports organizations that help communities thrive, such as those battling domestic abuse, homelessness, cancer, and more. If you haven't tried Thrive Cosmetics yet, it's time for you to do it to see for yourself what I'm talking about. Right now, you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order when you visit thrivecosmetics.com/best. That is Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/best for 20% off your first order. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Listen, sometimes in life we're faced with a tough moment, you know, and sometimes the path forward isn't always clear. Sometimes you're dealing with decisions about career, relationships. And here's what I'll tell you. Therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you're navigating your life so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. And here's the deal. I am a firm believer in therapy. I think that we all can use a little therapy. Even if you're a person where you're like, I don't have any trauma. I'm okay. Like I'm telling you, it's a lot. It's all a lot to navigate, you know, the world, the pressures, raising children, trying to figure out like what to eat. I mean, all of it. But it's helpful to learn positive coping skills. That is like sort of a broader benefit of therapy, is that then like if you are faced in the future with something huge, you have the tools. You're able to navigate it more clearly. You're able to navigate it in an easier way. If you're thinking of starting therapy, if you're like, oh, I'd like to find a therapist, I just don't know where to start, why don't you give BetterHelp a try? It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient and flexible and suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. I think BetterHelp is really a great service and company. I think you should give it a shot. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/busy today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/busy. Please enjoy Renée Elise Goldsberry. In case you didn't get a chance to see us on Fallon last night, Renée told a story that in the entirety of shooting Girls 5 Eva, none of us, including Meredith Scardino, the creator, Tina Fey, nobody knew, which was that she was in a failed girl group that couldn't get a record deal. And they had a song that a male songwriter wrote for them.
Story. Yes, I was.
And she lived the story of Girls 5 Eva.
I probably discounted it because it didn't happen. Like, my life is filled with things that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And most people don't ask you about what didn't happen. They ask you about what did. So
Right.
you kind of forget, you kind of forget. And girl, you don't have time, but my girlfriends from the time, like not my singer or whatever friend, just my friends that were around me at that time have been texting me all day. They're like, girl, I'll remember. And I remember so much. I was just telling my friend some of the things, remembering some of the moments of my girl group. And we have a season 2 and a season 3.
But actually, Renée, this is exactly what this podcast is kind of about. It is about the things that didn't happen.
Yes.
Because obviously we all know that you're Grammy and Tony Award winner, that you are Angelica Schuyler from Hamilton.
I love to hear you say that, Busy.
So wait, let's go back to the girl group that never was.
Okay.
In the mid 90s. What year are we talking here?
Girl, I don't even remember.
Let's say it's like 95.
Busy. I think it's like 97, 8.
97, 98. Okay.
Yeah.
And
97, 8.
okay. But so Ally McBeal started around 97. So the girl group was pre Ally McBeal. And after college, did you move to LA to try to pursue?
So
yes.
good.
Okay, so let's just start there. So you graduate from Carnegie Mellon. I'm sure you were
1993.
You were a star.
In my mind, actually, no, I was humbled by then. I thought I was a star growing up. By then, I just knew a lot of people that were way more talented than me by then. So I was adequately humbled, but I still had big dreams and I had a degree. And and I had friends like Billy Porter and, just all kinds of really talented, really good friends from school that were making it happen. And they'd let us like crash on their couches and figure out New York City. So I came straight to New York. Actually, Billy got me a job, but this is a digression. Being understudying Chandra Wilson, actually, in a play, the movie Paper Moon.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a musical, Make Paper Moon. It's a brilliant musical that didn't happen. There's a lot of different, that's why I forget this stuff. There are so many didn't happens. Yeah. But Chandra Wilson had the lead of Imogene, the black girl in this play. This is totally not where we're going with the story. But
I love it.
Something else. And they needed an understudy, and they asked Billy Porter, because we used to call him the mayor of New York City. He wasn't famous, but everybody knew he should be. Yeah. And they called him. He's not a casting director. They're like, who do you know that can be funny and sing this part? Because Chandra Wilson, was pregnant. She was going to have her first child, who's now probably 37 years old. I'm kidding. Because that's how long ago this shit was. Anyway, and so I got this part. So I had a job coming to New York City, and I was doing theater. I had that role. I was just doing, and I started doing regional theater and tours. I was just a theater girl, and I was on my way. And it just crossed my mind one time that I missed school. I wasn't done being in school. I just felt like my friends that don't do what I do, in 2 years, she's going to be a doctor, she's going to be a lawyer, and I'm going to have done 2 more plays. You know what I'm saying? And I just felt like I missed that. I just missed it. Not that you have to go to school to do this, but I missed it. Also, very importantly, a very good friend of mine said to me, Renée, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? I was like, everything. I want to do everything. And he was like, but if you had to pick, what do you want to be? I'm like, well, I want to be a recording artist. I want to be a movie star. I want to be everything. Right. And he was like, well, if you want to do everything, I also said Broadway, by the way. And he was like, if you want to do everything, why are you doing it like this? Why are you starting with Broadway? It's like, you're sitting in New York City auditioning against the most talented people in the world to understudy a soap opera star. Like, if you want to be a recording artist and a movie star and a Broadway star, why don't you're already over the hill to be a recording artist. Alicia Keys is like 12. Do you know what I'm saying? You're like already over the hill in your 20s. You need to figure out how to be a recording star. So that's why I went back to school. And my big pivot that I wanted to share with you is I learned from watching the Oprah Winfrey Show. Do you remember that show?
I remember it. It raised me. Renee.
Do you remember the time when Oprah just was so aware of her power that she stopped having specialists on?
Yes.
She just was the specialist.
Yes.
So I left New York. I went to visit my friend in LA who was in law school, one of my best friends. And as soon as I got there, she said, oh, by the way, I'm on spring break. And the bitch left me in her apartment by myself. And so I started watching Oprah because she was my friend and she didn't know it. And she had this show about failures, people that are failures, right? And the whole premise of the show was, why is somebody a failure? So, there's no definition of failure. You just have to actually invite people on that believe they're failures. So she did, and she just had a chalkboard and it was her. And she asked them what they did at each stage of their life. And on the chalkboard, what you could see is at the top of the chalkboard, they had options. And every decision they made along the road reduced their options. So anybody that considered themselves a failure were really people that were really dead end because they were in a life that they didn't feel like they had an option to do any else. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. This is, by the way, guys, this is amazing.
Right.
Get a chalkboard.
So I'm sitting there by myself at whatever age I am in 1994, 95 in my best friend's apartment by myself in Calabasas. Okay. and I'm just like crying because I realize this thing, which is everybody really is just the moment before. Like really our entire life is I'm in third grade because I was in second grade. Like there's only a few times in your life that you actually, and maybe people never do it, that you actually take yourself out of the current of life that you didn't even start, by the way, and choose something else. Right?
Oh my God.
It just hits me, right? In my 20s in this apartment. And I say, I got to do something else. I've got to go back to school, right? I'm not going to just do another play. Not that I don't want to, but I've got to figure out how to do something different. And the reason why I chose school is because I felt that was the way to have another career. I just knew how to network in a school. So I basically started calling schools. And next thing I know, I was getting a master's degree in vocal jazz at the University of Southern California. And I called my parents, I called my friends from school, like Billy, and he's like, why are you going back to school? This is ridiculous. But the reason why I did it is because I wanted to have my own voice, right? I wanted to figure out how not to sing like whatever girl just originated the role that I wanted to play. Right. I wanted to sing like Renee, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I was in LA trying to learn how to play this acoustic guitar that's actually right behind me. And with the dream to be in Lilith Fair. Does anybody remember Lilith Fair?
Lilith Fair. I had the t-shirt. I went.
Girl, I just wanted to be barefoot with an acoustic guitar and sing my heart out. I just wanted to tell my story. Girl, I have songs with a Z, right? I just wanted to do that so bad. And so I graduated. So Ally McBeal was God's gift to me. I used to say to feed the beast at home, because what I was doing was sitting in my best friend's backyard, writing music that nobody was signing, right?
Right.
But I had to tell them I was doing something with 2 degrees. I had a master's degree and an undergrad degree, and I was singing in a band called Charisma with a Z.
Yes.
At clubs in what is it? What is those towns north of LA that
like Pomona?
Pomona
Pomona
at the casinos. up there.
Oh my God.
For like $100 a night. That's what I was doing. But like what I could tell my parents that I was doing was that I was on Ally McBeal, which really was a great, fun job. But it wasn't like what I was doing. I was trying to get signed and by any means necessary. And one day one of my girlfriends, Kenna Ramsey, called me and said, do you want to be in this girl group with me? And I said, shit, yeah, I ain't got nothing else to do today but write these songs ain't nobody heard. And so, yeah, we just started. And it was exciting, you guys. Because these guys, there's two guys, they dressed us up. They paid for it.
How did they find Kenna?
Kenna, first of all, she is the singingest girl you've ever met in your life. She's drop dead gorgeous. And she can sing like Patti LaBelle or anybody else. She can sing anything effortlessly. All of my friends, we all sang backup. She sings backup for everybody. David Foster, everybody. She's one of them. And she called me. She's like, do you want to do this? I said, yes, I do. There was another girl that was already in it. She was the girlfriend of the producer.
Okay.
She was like this tall, model looking, really brown skinned Black woman that sang. She had a low register. And every time she sang, I wanted to sleep with her. Okay. And she had like that low voice. She was super sexy and she was his girlfriend. So she was in. And then there was Kenna because she could sing to the stratosphere. And then there was me because I don't know. And then I invited in my friend Billy, who I'd met in Toronto, who could play the piano and sing. And she's racially ambiguous. Okay. and the record label paid that, she couldn't get into the country to work. This is how legit this shit is. They brought her here on one of those things.
Yeah, they pay $10,000. It's at least it's a work visa for entertainment, specialized entertainment, and you have to have like a very legit company has to sign off on you and write a letter to the government and then additionally pay $10,000
saying that nobody else can do
the job what you're going to do.
I was a hero. She quit all of her work, all of her jobs in Toronto and Canada, and she came to LA to be in this group. And they took us to this little cheap clothing things on Venice Beach, and they put little rags of clothes on us. And this is what I forgot till my girlfriends reminded me today. We used to sit down in interviews and talk, and they tell you how old you are, by the way. And that's that's not just for girl groups. Anytime you get a record deal, I learned you have to be as young as possible. So like, let me tell you, if you were like 35, they say, or 45, you started as 35. If you were me, that was like 26, 27, 28, they said, you're 21. You're 2021. That's what they said I was. If somebody tells you at 27 years old that you have to pretend to be 20, clearly I talk a lot, and this isn't new. I've always talked like this, but every interview they would ask me a question, and every 10 years of my life experience was negated, so I couldn't answer. They'd be like, and I would be like, I literally was mute. I didn't speak in interviews because I couldn't remember what I would have known at 20.
Right. You couldn't talk about college. You couldn't talk about the fact that you had a master's degree.
I couldn't talk about even living outside. I was like, can I mention that I graduated from high school? I couldn't speak. Right. So I was dressed. I was whatever. Anyway, so they wrote this hit song for us that I sang on Fallon last night. And I liked the song. It never even crossed my mind how ridiculous the words were because it was such a bop. It was such a great bop.
Renee, tell Caissie what the lyrics are.
Yes, you can find you a good man. But when you do, you gotta treat him right. Make sure your love is out of sight now. That's the whole hook. Is that not a hook? That's a hook. It's a hook.
Yes, you can find yourself a good man. But when you do, you gotta treat him right.
Make sure your love is out of sight now. Okay? Clearly, we did not write the words ourselves. But anyway, so that was our hit. And this is what's so crazy. I remember I recorded my vocals. And I think we were like the fourth or fifth iteration of this group because I had to record over some other girl's vocals.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
oh my God.
That's how replaceable we are. They lived in this mansion. The producer had this huge mansion and the girlfriend lived in there with him. And I remember I was recording my vocals late at night in the studio and like the wall made some sound and he just picked up a random hammer and just started banging at the wall and then stopped. I only tell you all that to say, just remember that strange moment in the mansion. And now I'm going to cut to the our moment with the when we're in a hotel room to meet the A&R executive, right?
Yeah.
So we're all dressed up with our little clothes on and we're ready. We all know the parts of our songs and how we're going to kill. We've done this meeting a bunch of times to get this far. And we've just wowed them every time. They kept saying Destiny's Child, Destiny's Child, Destiny's Child, Destiny's Child. And then the head of A&R comes in and it's a woman, a beautiful Black woman, probably in her 30s. And we're like all in our 20s and we have no clothes on and she's wearing clothes. And I'm like, oh, when I saw her, I'm like, it's my sister. I'm like, we about to get this record deal. That's what I thought. Because this is the last stage. And before the woman sits in the chair, one of the girls, one of the bandmates, the one that was the girlfriend of the producer, says, when are you due?
No.
Yes. And she said, what? She said, when is your baby due? And she said, I'm not pregnant. And then this silence that you're about to hear was like the next 10 minutes of our entire interview. I can't even do this.
I can't.
But this is what I didn't get to tell you last night on Fallon. This is what I found out when the thing crashed and burned, and it crashed and burned immediately, and that's why I forgot. The reason why she asked that question is not because the woman looked like she's pregnant, but because she was pregnant. And she didn't tell us, and they just wanted to get her in the record deal so that we could sign it so then she could have her baby. So then we would have all sat around, like owned, like, you know, like property for 2 years and not be able to do anything. That's the first thing. And then I found out that the mansion that they lived in did not belong to them. They were squatters.
What?
Did you know that there literally are people that just go through the newspaper and find houses that are foreclosed on, break in, move some shit in, and then it takes
and change the locks.
Change the
locks, right?
And the California is not going to do. They first have to figure out that you're there. Then they have to start proceedings to get you out, so you can live in a mansion for like 3 or 4 months, and then you just move to the next one. So I'm up there recording. There's literally like that's how fraudulent they were. And the only reason why I ever came out is because it crashed and burned. And if it hadn't crashed and burned, that would have been the start of another girl group that probably wasn't that different from any other girl group that ever makes it. I'm just saying.
And also,
that's wild.
But also, you would have been in business with legit fraudulent like fraudsters.
People, which I don't know is that different from people's experience in the recording industry. But I have to tell you, just to jump cut, you know, the reason why I went back to school, and I told you that whole thing about the pyramid and the reverse pyramid that Oprah taught me, you know, from her show.
Which now we all know and we're all thinking about.
It's like there is no definition of failure. I just want to bring this home. It really is just your feeling that you don't have options in your life. That's really what it is. You could be you could be living in a mansion that you actually bought and feel that way. And so what I learned is that what you want to do when you're making decisions in your life, you want to make decisions looking not at the moment you're going into, but like the X missions, right? Yeah. Like, what are my options going to be when I graduate from this stage of my life? And if it gives you more options than you had when you went in, your pyramid is going in the right direction. So when I'm making decisions about what I want to do, my question tends to be things like, what kind of options and opportunities will this yield me when it's over?
This is gold. Also, should you have a talk show?
I was going to say, I feel like you should have a talk show with a chalkboard.
Did you ever think about
girl,
that?
I got a talk show in my house every day, girl. In my house every day. I ain't got no sponsors. Okay.
I don't know why you don't have
every day with all this experience and a great, I don't have any of that. But in my own life, if you call my house and I answer the phone, we are having a talk show. I can't help it.
Wow.
Renee, you know I'm obsessed with you. But I love you.
I love you too.
Renee, thank you so much. So nice to see you.
The day that we were talking to our guests, I was like, kind of like, I don't really feel like doing this. I almost called Caissie and said, like, I don't think so. I don't think that I can do this.
Yeah.
And because it was Paul F. Tompkins and Janie Haddad Tompkins, I thought, well, even if I just got on this Zoom with them and said nothing, it would be fine because I've been such good friends with them for so long that I know they would be chill with it.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, they are just infectious, lovely, infectious in the best way. not in a COVID Delta variant way.
COVID-19 way.
I'm very, very, very happy to talk to you guys. I love you both so much.
I love
Busy,
you.
we
Busy.
love you too, and
I
we're
mean,
thrilled to be here. I know
it's
that
just
your
like-
audience was like, "Get more nobodies on the show."
And we're here.
I don't think anyone thinks of either of you as a nobody.
Janie and Paul are also friends of mine. You hold the distinction of being, and tell me if this is like, am I alone in this? Viewers, you can write in about this. I am terrible. I'm not the best at having friends. Like, I feel like it's a skill I learned in adulthood. It wasn't something that I was always like the third wheel of like a best friend pair, like throughout my life. And so anywho, I have a weird, like a lot of people have best friends, and I've always been like, what's that like to have a best friend? But you are two of the people that I will say, oh, they're like two of my best friends, and then people are like, oh, you're best friends with Paul and Janie, and then I'll always clarify, well, I never said that I'm their best friend. I said that they're my best friend.
like we're going around issuing like corrections. Like,
yeah, like I feel like
I know she says this, but it's actually it's one-sided.
I just
Guys,
always
can we
want
talk about this for
clarify.
a second? Though? Really, I do too. I want to clarify too, because here's the thing. I know what best is a designator for. I know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
However, I believe that best friends can be many and all
Absolutely.
types.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
I mean, people frequently think you can only have one best friend, but I just don't think that's true.
No,
No,
I
I
don't
agree.
think that's true either. My issue
I agree.
is I never want to speak for the other party in my best friendship.
Oh, I
can only say
Yeah.
who is a best friend to me, but I cannot
yeah.
say I'm a best friend to them.
I would like to give permission to both Busy and Caissie to freely use whatever designation of friendship you
Absolutely.
want with me, because I love
You could say
both.
we're work friends. That's fine with me.
That's rude. That feels rude. That feels rude.
No, don't say that.
I don't like
that.
that.
Sounds sad.
Actually, now I'm upset.
But can I,
It was going so well. It can turn on a dime, guys. Just so you know.
may I say this? I'm surprised to hear that to hear Caissie say that friendship is a skill that she learned in adulthood, because and that I feel like you have thousands of friends and that you are close with many people. That's the way I've always thought of you.
Same.
Oh, that's nice. I
Agreed.
think you and I had a really because I was a fan of yours before we were friends, and I just felt like I don't often feel like I'm in the weeds, you know? And I felt like the first 5 times I ever talked to you, I was like, what the fuck am I even saying? Like, then I would be like, you know what? You're just getting in your own head about this. And then people would be like, what the fuck were you even saying to him?
No.
Oh my God.
Well, drop those people.
What were you talking about? And so like the first 5 times I ever met you, I was like, well, if he wants to continue talking to me after this, then, you know, he's just a very, very exceedingly kind person, because I don't even know what I'm saying.
See, my memory is that we connected pretty quickly.
Yes.
And that this is, of course, for people who don't know, Caissie and I met doing Best Week Ever, the original Best Week Ever on Video Hits 1. And I was one of many talking heads. And I can't imagine you knew me from anything other than that. But
No,
you
I
would
did.
see, what did you know me from?
From Mr. Show.
But I mean, when people say they're a fan of me from Mr. Show, I assume they mean they're a fan of all of Mr. Show, and because I was a part of it, they're a fan of me as a result of that.
You know that I was like maniacal about Mr. Show, though. Like, it was like we were the only people that had cable our age, Matt and I, my husband and I, and like people would come over to watch Mr. Show, and every week it would be rough, because I would start like laying down rules about the level of volume that people could talk at. And so I would just be like, if you can't shut the fuck up during Mr. Show, you need to take your 6-pack that you brought and get out of here. I told you, I don't know how to have friends. You've never seen
Janie,
it?
you've never seen it?
She's never
No.
seen it.
And I got to do a part in the reboot.
With Bob and David.
Thank you, Bob Odenkirk, for that.
That's amazing.
I was not a super fan like Caissie, but I don't even really watch anything anymore.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Busy thought that Busy came in the middle of the Tiger Woods documentary, and she thought it was about the Night Stalker.
I thought it was about. Okay. All right. This is, by the way, we'll probably have to cut this out because we've already told this story on the podcast, I think. But
it never stops being funny.
Okay, I came home from work. All I knew is that Mark had been talking about watching the Night Stalker documentary. The Tiger Woods one wasn't even on my radar, okay? So I didn't even know it existed. Yeah. And then I walked into the room, and this is the snippet that I hear as I walk in. He had a van that was parked just in the back of the parking lot of the golf course, and he would take women in there.
The dad, because that's his.
It's about the dad. They were talking about the dad. I literally was like, wait, I didn't know anything about like the Night Stalker with women and the golf course.
Right.
And he was a golf pro, and I was like, what the fuck? And then
the Night Stalker was Tiger Woods' dad.
But Mark wasn't in the room. And so I was like, and I'm like watching this, I'm like, oh my God, it's so wild. And Mark walks back in, and I was like, well, turn it off. I don't want to watch any like scary murder stuff. And he's like, what are you saying?
I'm sorry. I know I'm like crying, laughing.
I thought that he was a golf pro that had a camper and then took the women in there.
He took the women in the van.
I gotta say, that's fair. You know what? I don't blame you.
It's
not knowing about either thing.
I can see it.
It's creepy in a different way. It's just, it's still creepy in a different way. It's still creepy.
Creepy in a different way. Also, I don't understand people who like have sex with their exercise people, like they're golf pros, tennis pros.
Yeah.
It's just so confusing to me. Like, how do you make that transition?
Yeah, it doesn't seem sexy.
Well, it doesn't engender like sexy feelings for me, I guess, is what I'm saying.
It's all the touching, I guess, with those sports.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you're always like it looks like Lamaze a lot. Like the person's always down at your ankles and looking at your business before you're if they're like holding at your ankles.
I've never played golf, so
not golf.
Maybe that's
I don't know. Maybe do you do crunches before golf? I don't know.
Sure, I know I do.
Oh, that.
But if a trainer or like golf, you get behind them to help them with their swing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like standing spooning.
Tennis and golf, I think, are the two chief sports where you can get behind somebody and start touching them and having them mimic your movements, like that, doing that, using that as an excuse to get on them. And then, of course, you start grinding.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then, of course, you start grinding.
See what happens.
You guys. How's your podcast? How's the Stay F Homekins?
Stay F Homekins. It's actually very fun. Paul's on it. He has his other podcasts. So we've got to keep...
Yes, the other podcast that Paul is on is every other podcast.
Is every
and
so
every single other one.
We can't
Paul,
spread our
would
audience.
You say, I don't want to. Would you say you are like in so many ways like the uncle of podcasting?
I don't know where in the family I would be most where it would make the most sense, but I know that somebody once told me
you're a relative for sure. You're in the immediate.
I'm in the family.
You're in the family.
Yeah, and an older member, I think. I think that's fair to say.
What's the guy term for grande dame?
Like your great
Il
uncle?
Divo?
Are you the Il Divo?
I'm the Il Divo of podcasting, sure.
The Don.
But yeah, somebody once told me that I am a good first guest for a podcast because people will seek out my name to get into a podcast. Like if they hear of a podcast, they will search my name to see if I've been on it and make that their first episode.
Well, we fucked up.
No. Full year in.
I think you're fine.
You're doing fine. You didn't need that.
I don't think you need to worry.
You had.
I'm not sure about that.
I mean, listen, we fucked a lot of things up. We might as well just add one thing. We're finally figuring it out.
We're finally figuring it out.
Ironing out the details.
We are.
Nobody knows. Everybody just does what they can.
Yeah, and I think it takes a while before, whether you think you have figured it out or not, I think it takes a while for you to feel that way.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like when you finally feel like, oh, I know what our formula is. I know what, this doesn't feel like awkward to me anymore, what we do at this part or whatever, but you may already have been there before you felt it.
What do you think that's the secret to life?
God damn,
Yeah.
I guess so.
It's gotta be.
Right?
Yeah.
Shoot.
Fact.
Actually, no, I do think that you have not figured it out until you feel like you figured it out as far as life goes.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you're ever in a point in at least speaking personally. I don't think I've ever been at a point in my life where I'm like, I actually was doing okay the whole time. Like it is minute by minute for sure.
I don't know.
But I think it's different for different people.
I think figuring it out could be a bad place
I
to
think
be.
yes. I think feeling like, oh, I've got this all. I know what life is. You're fucked.
What's the point of life if it's already? I thought the whole point of life is the constant figuring out.
I thought you were about to say it's a constant struggle.
Well, figuring things out can be a struggle.
You know what?
Well, for some of us.
I don't know if all of life is a constant struggle, but I think that struggles are a constant part of life. That things as you move through it, it's like you have to worry about different things, and then other things you don't have to fucking worry about anymore. Some things that were like a huge struggle for you at one point, you get to a point in life where you're like, I can't believe I worried about that.
Yeah.
I can't believe that was ever a thing that I invested so much time and emotion in. And then you're looking at things like, now this shit right now, this is serious, and I have to be worried about it.
Wait, what's the thing that you have let go of being worried about that used to plague both of you?
For me,
individually, not together.
Yeah, for me, I will say that I think it took me forever, and I think I am finally at the point where I don't really care what other people think of me. And this is, Truly, I don't. Yeah, I'm going to be 53 this month, and it took me this long, to say like I really don't care. Like I think because I like myself more as a person than I ever have before. Like right now I have the least amount of self-loathing, which is not to say zero.
Wow. On the scale. The scale of self-loathing.
On a scale of absolute self-loathing to a little bit, I'm at a little bit.
My thing, I think that I've not, because I'm not at a place where I don't care because I still get in my head about stuff. But for me, it's been, I think I'm better with rejection just because of acting, and like having to get rejected so much. I've gotten to a place where it still stings, but I get through it much quicker than when I was younger.
Yeah.
And internalize it less.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't think necessarily that rejection you don't take it as deeply personal.
Yeah. Now it's more like they made a mistake.
I think that's like a thing that I need to implement more.
It's hard.
Recognizing it. Yeah, it's hard.
I've been actively working on it for a long time because I feel like, you get rejected so much in acting. And if you're totally destroyed and disintegrated every single time, you'll never persist.
Especially when you have to live in LA, you will literally be driving down the street and see billboards for 3 things that you didn't get cast in or that you didn't get hired on.
Not me, but yeah.
It's just like, guys, it's not even really a Hollywood break. I mean, I don't know. You've probably seen pictures of Los Angeles, but if you've not been to Hollywood and Los Angeles and driven around, like you don't, I think, fully understand that like the entire place is papered.
You can't escape it. It's an industry town, period.
From the sidewalk to the clouds, of different people's projects, faces, new things that are coming out.
Just everyone succeeding around you.
In Los Angeles, I know that parents actually alter their routes when they have their kids in the car because of certain billboards are like,
we had to do that because of American Horror Story.
So they won't drive past a horrifying billboard. Yeah.
Oh, their route.
Well, because you drive past
about,
an American Horror Story tongue snake going into someone's ear once, and your 6-year-old is like traumatized.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, we're not taking Sunset for the next 3 months. Okay.
Yeah.
There was some show. I can't remember what the name of the show was, but there was a billboard where it was a close-up of an eyeball with like a little worm crawling out of it. And it's like, what the
Sci-Fi.
fuck are you?
It was on Sci-Fi.
What are you doing?
It was horrible.
Horrible.
And
made me so
that
mad.
Also, it's bad for parents of young children in Los Angeles the month of October because the haunted hayride,
everything,
billboards, the haunted Not Scary Farm, haunted Universal, even like spooky
haunted
Disneyland.
Erewhon.
I mean, to be clear, Erewhon is always haunted.
Always haunted.
Absolutely.
Always haunted by the
Absolutely.
ghost of how much money you used to have. Before you went in there.
One of my favorite things about billboards in Los Angeles is that frequently studios will, I guess at the urging of a manager or an agent, will put a billboard for a project near
We've talked
the
about
home. You talked about this already?
Yeah, because they did it to me for Busy Tonight.
Did they really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I had two. There were 2 billboards in all of Los Angeles. One was on my route to my Lec Fit workout, and the other one was on my route to SoulCycle. It's so fucking fascinating to me how like ego drives everything, you know?
Yeah.
And like if you, I don't know, like that's the reasoning behind it. They want like the star to be like, I mean, they are putting money behind my show. I've seen billboards everywhere. And then like if you don't if you don't realize that there's just like 2 giant billboards.
Right.
You're
in
just
the
seeing
world.
Just
In the
seeing
whole world.
one repeatedly because you live under it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I've seen this billboard 50 times now.
I mean,
in the last 50 days.
I was like mad about it. I was like, oh, really? You buy 2 fucking tiny billboards on my route to my gym? Oh, you know me so well.
Right.
Like,
I mean, it's manipulative, though.
it is manipulative.
Yeah.
But the whole business is fucking manipulative.
That's true. It is.
I'm also mad nobody ever did it for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, when we did Best Week Ever, we made our own posters. We got in trouble for making our own posters to hang up.
Best Week, we did get a billboard in Times Square for the launch of the show.
And it
That's
was like,
exciting.
yes, that's true.
Yeah, but wait.
But no one cared.
Wait, when Paul hosted Best Week Ever solo, remember they put the billboard in Times Square and they used like they didn't even do a publicity shot of you. Didn't they use like a headshot of yours?
They used a headshot, yeah.
They didn't even tell you. They just like went on Google and like copied image and then, and it was like, well, how are you supposed to sell the show that way? It tells you nothing about him as a host or, you know what I mean?
Look, we could spend a whole episode on what VH1 did wrong with Best Week Ever.
So, Paul, I really am like a James Lipton. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, truly, that is what the comparison has been made time and time again.
Yes.
So
Now that's settled.
Yeah, it's settled. Okay, we enjoy talking the entire sort of thing that we like to discuss our pivots in career, in life, in like whatever. But I'm curious if there is a pivot for you, Paul F. Tompkins, that's at right at the top of the most important / devastating / hilarious pivots first, and then Janie, you think about it.
Dealer's
and
choice.
It can be personal too.
Yeah, I've had like when I first started, when I first got a manager after I moved out here, I was doing stand up and I very much wanted to be in movies. I wanted to have like a Bill Murray type career, and that's what I kind of wanted to do. And I was frustrated that wasn't happening. My manager at the time, her name was Julie James. She was a terrific manager who eventually got out of the business to devote her life to altruism. And I will always feel like I was one of the people that drove her to quit showbiz. But she was the best manager. And at the time she was like, I think you should be the next David Letterman. And I didn't want to hear that because I didn't want to be myself. I wanted to be an actor and I wanted to do all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then like later after she quit, like I was like, and I didn't connect it at first. And I was like, I want to host things. I want to be a TV host. And you know, when Best Week Ever happened. And then after that ended, that was my goal, was like, I set my sights on doing my own show. And I finally got to do a pilot for Comedy Central. The pilot not only didn't go, but
was I the
you
one
guessed
that
it
did
on it. Yes,
yeah,
you guessed it.
I did the pilot.
Yes, you did. You were on that pilot.
Yeah, it was in 2013.
Yeah, and I not only did the show not go, but the head of the network at the time called me as I was in Chicago and I was about to do this music video, and we were out on location near the lake, and it was a night shoot. We were going to shoot. We started shooting as soon as it got dark, and we were going to go till 5 a.m. or something like that. And I got a call from the head of the network who said, is this a good time to talk? And I said, actually, I'm about to step on set. And then he just started talking to me.
And
telling me, this was before the show officially didn't go. And he told me that the show wasn't good, that I did not, I made mistakes in booking guests. There was like one guest that was maybe a mistake, not you, Busy, but somebody else.
It's okay if it was me. I don't actually.
It was not you. It was not you. And that I came across as old-fashioned and kind of stuffy, and that I was not really going to do well with their audience. And I was like,
TMI.
Okay, well, thank you. And then it was like a month after that they said, yeah, we just tested it and it didn't do well and the show's not going to go. So I had to like live with that for a month, where he was putting it all on me. Like I was the reason that this thing did not go. And I couldn't understand. This was like a guy that I was friendly with, like before he got this job. And I was like, I couldn't understand why he was telling me this. Like, what was I supposed to do with that information except dwell on it for years?
That is
which is
super
what I did.
Interesting. Like, holy fuck. Like,
yeah.
Why?
It's
never,
funny. That's
never
making
understood
me
it.
think of something that you guys were talking about in a previous podcast.
Yes,
about this sort of like wave of people being
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, because I know people that are like, oh, I'm a radical truth teller or whatever, and it's like, that's not always the kindest avenue of communicating with someone you appreciate.
It's also you're a radical opinion giver.
But also,
you know what I mean? Just because you said it doesn't mean it's the fucking truth.
But I wonder if in his point of view, if he thought that truth telling was somehow like a kindness, but it wasn't. Does that make sense?
It sure wasn't.
I just have to be honest, right? Like I just have to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It was before the thing was officially dead. I didn't understand why it didn't cushion the blow. I don't think he was doing it maliciously, but I think it was a very misguided thing to do.
Also, some of these people in these positions, they forget what creatives go through.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they never knew.
Exactly. And so they're used to talking about you like you're just this commodity to other people in the corporation. You know what I mean? And then when it comes to dealing with the actual talent, they don't understand sort of like the bleeding that you've done.
Yeah.
I think that's the case with just a lot of people never think of the way what they're saying is. And this is also something we've talked about on the podcast. When you're like, should I say something about the way this made me feel? Should I say something about my side of this? Or like if someone says something to you that rubs you the wrong way or hurts your feelings or whatever, and you're like, should I say something back? And I think about it for a really long time. And then I'm like, how long did this motherfucker think about what they were about to say to me? 0 seconds. I know it was 0 seconds.
Yeah.
And like the truth is, like, it's hard when somebody's talking about the persona that you have on camera, that's really you. That's your persona. So it's doubly painful as opposed to like, oh, this part that you were acting wasn't right. It's, we've we're not going in that direction. But when somebody's saying like, essentially you are not appealing, then like, what are you supposed to do about that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it affected you, but were you just like, well, I'm not going to host things anymore? Or did you take it to heart, or did you use it as fire, or like, how did it?
It devastated me. I took it to heart, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if this is it. It cast a shadow over everything that I tried to do after that, you know, and it sucked because it put me in this place of, well, I'm never going to get to do anything like that. So what do I do? And it was the beginning of a very long and slow descent into a depression that honestly reached its peak during quarantine. And then, you know, because there's so much time to just think and dwell on things. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know what my career is. And, you know, I was getting, because of BoJack, I was getting BoJack Horseman. I did a voice on BoJack Horseman, and I was getting more and more voiceover work. And I was like, is this what it is? Am I doing just this now? Like auditioning, not getting anything, not even getting that many auditions. And occasionally somebody would stick me in a thing. And I was like, is this what it is? Is that occasionally somebody who's a fan of mine from some other thing says, okay, now we're in our 7th season. So if we want, we can stick this guy in there.
Right.
You know, and always a part that was like, well, this part can never come back, you know? And so I couldn't even be like, oh, I can show up on this show every once in a while, you know? And I was really, but it all came back to that phone conversation where I was like, I don't know. I'm just like damaged goods or something, or nobody wants me. I don't have anything. I'm not marketable. I don't have a thing that anyone wants. And honestly, it wasn't until I changed my fucking medication last year that I climbed out of that I got out of that. I was lifted out of it.
Well,
and
but also there was a lot of self-reflection during the pandemic on top of that.
Tons. But also part of that self-reflection is, well, I can't be living in this place. I can't be like, this is where it ends. Like, I can't just be sitting in this forever.
The way that you described that moment, like the phone call, like it was clearly a trauma. Yeah. The phone call itself was a trauma.
Yeah.
Because, well, first of all, I'm a big late in life learning what boundaries are. Didn't ever fucking know, but immediately railroaded over your boundary. You're like, actually, I'm about to do something right now. I'm literally about.
That to me is the craziest part.
This isn't a great time.
Yes.
Which then, from that point on, it is disrespect. From that point on, it's fucking done. It's done.
Can I say one thing too? Almost worse than being disrespectful, I hate the performance of respect that isn't true. Yeah. So I hate when someone says, hey, I just wanted to check if this was okay with you. And you're like, actually, it's not. And then the person like debates you on whether or not it's okay. And then it's like, oh, you thought I was just going to say yes and acquiesce to this. And you really weren't you really weren't interested in whether or not it was okay with me. You just wanted to give the performance of respecting me. Yeah. And that's almost worse than just disrespecting me to begin with.
Like if you ask somebody for space and they're like, 2 days is enough. And then they start like texting you or something. And it's like, that's not how this works. It's like, you don't decide.
This is not your situation at all, Paul, but a lot of misogyny is that.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's the same kind of exchange in a way. It's like the person thinks they're more important than your space.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So Paul, I want to go back to, because this is, I'm like, wow. I'm so grateful to hear that you are like on the other side of that, because and I'm sorry that I ruined your pilot.
You classed it up.
I'm really teasing. No, because I remember being at the taping for the pilot and Mark and I watching you before I went out or whatever, and just being like, this is it. Like this is what you were like born to do. This is like, it was so clear. It was so fucking funny and so clear to us, like what a huge talent and star you were, and like how that was what you should be doing. That was, and it was so clear to me just in knowing you that was like your dream and everything. To hear that like one person's thought has been in your brain for so many years, like really, really breaks my heart. And like, and I fucking get it. I get it so deeply. Like I obviously get it, you know? But it wasn't just the medication, to be fair. Like you had to like do work. You know what I mean? Like I want you to give yourself as much credit as you can. But I have often thought, and Mark and I have talked about that pilot. And like I've often thought like, why didn't he try to do another late night talk show somewhere? Why didn't he try to do, and listen, our paths are our paths. And like, I'm like grateful for the work that you do and like all of the stuff. But I hate the thought that one person like so deeply affected your dream.
Well, thank you for saying that. And, you know, what I have to do is look at it as, and what I've come to look at it as, is that there are many dreams. And, you know, what happened after quarantine was I started to realize, like, I want to do what I want to do. And that's why I started, fired up my variety show again and saying, I just want to do a thing that is just for me. If I can make some money from it, great. There's no other purpose for this. I'm doing this just to do it because it would be fun for me to do. As far as work goes, I'll take what comes along. If I get auditions, I'll audition. If I get hired for this or that, I'll do that. If I get voiceover work, I'll do that. I mean, I have a very nice life, and I'm okay with not being some kind of household name or something, or, you know, I'm okay with people not knowing where to find my shit. You know what I mean? If I have to say it's on this weird platform that's new or whatever, like whatever that is, like I think about, there's this show, I won't name it. I'll text you later what show it is, but it's been on. It's been on for years. I've never seen it. I've never heard anybody talk about it. It is on this platform that I've never visited. If I got on a show like that no one ever saw, but somehow it kept staying on, I'd be fine. You know what I mean? Like if I was having a good time, that's really, I've really come to look at priorities as being the things that are necessary as opposed to the things that I desire, and realizing that I still get to have a really good life doing fun things, you know, like it's good, you know, like my priorities have become less egocentric. And part of that really is age, you know, it's like getting older and realizing like there's part of it that's like, you know, well, if the time to kind of, you know, focus on things and be better and about understanding how the business works and all that was when I was younger. And unfortunately, I was not in a great space when I was younger. It was pre-therapy. It was, you know, there was so many things that I didn't realize were wrong that were wrong. And if I had been able to, I either had to be in a sort of emotional place where I am now, or I had to be a sociopath. Right. And since I was neither of those things at the time, that's how it worked, you know?
Right.
And so I'm okay with where I am. I'm okay with where I am.
And you and I have had a lot of conversations about this. I think, do we want to do
Caissie has been there for me so many times. Like when I have been struggling with these issues, and I cannot overestimate how much that has meant to me over the years.
Well, I love you so much. And I do not say this lightly. I've worked for icons. I just have. Like, I feel weird saying that, but it's true. I've worked
it's absolutely true.
It's true.
There's no way around it.
And so, you know, so I've sat down and rolled my eyes at the most famous, most talented, beloved people that have performed on the planet, and you are the most talented comedian I've ever had the privilege to work with, to the point where, like, again, when we first met, it was working on this show, and I was like, I don't know if I can write for him. Like, I don't know if I can do it because I'm nervous, like not realizing, because I didn't know you, and I didn't realize like how collaborative you would be, and how great it was to have you say, oh yeah, and like, let's take this and add to this, and how much fun it would be to work for you. I was nervous because you are just so wildly talented, and every comedian that everybody looks up to now, they always are like excited to know that I know you. You know what I mean? Like
That's very sweet of you to tell me that.
It's 100% true. Your name comes up every time. And it's just, I feel like you and I have had a lot of conversations like, well, okay, so for whatever reason, like, what are we going to cry about not being Dane Cook? Like, you know what I mean? Like, cause we're not. Then you see who did get a late night show, and you can see now that perspective of like, oh yeah, this makes sense. I'm not that.
Yeah. Okay. But just real quick, sidebar, would you have given John Mulaney 19 minutes to talk about his year?
I would just like to say, for the record, Paul, if you decide to blow up our marriage, can we do it a little differently than that?
Yeah, let's plan it out.
Well, you guys, I'm gonna be honest, like a lot of the stuff from my book about Mark was like sort of extrapolated in the press, has been really hurtful for him in a lot of ways. And it's been a thing that like,
that sucks.
I had to, but I also have to own that because I, said those things, and people really wanted to talk about the marriage stuff and like,
it's so hard to Monday morning quarterback too. Like, how are you supposed to like future trip on the one thing that is going to be get distorted and like
get picked up by the press,
scrutinized.
It's like when Al Roker wrote in his book about sharding at the White House. That's all anyone wanted to talk about. Al Roker would be like, "Enough! Can we stop talking about how I sharded at the White House?" And then everyone was like, "Al Roker, you put it in your book."
And he should have named it I sharded at the White House.
Well, the thing is, Mark read all of the versions of the book and whatever, and he never had an issue with what I wrote. The problem becomes that you Google his name and it's like Busy Phillips. I wanted to leave my deadbeat husband or whatever it was, like not or whatever they like.
It's
make
upsetting.
these like terrible.
Right.
They make these headlines that
it's
are like
upsetting. Yeah,
not exactly accurate, taken out of context, which is something Joan Rivers talked about.
It's true. She did.
Yes.
She did.
Anyway,
what we should get to is we heard Paul's pivot that he had like this. I mean, what do you just sum it up, Paul? Like you had this pivot and you're in a better place.
What's the log line of your pivot?
What's the elevator
if we're
pitch
selling
for
this, the elevator pitch. Thank you.
Jesus. Life goes on, I guess. You know, it's like it's very easy to get hung up on one thing several times. You know, it could be several things you get hung up on in a row. But that life goes on, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, I guess. I don't fucking know.
That's one of my favorite sayings that my mom used to say, and it's so disgusting.
Why
it's
would
horrible.
you skin a cat at all?
Why, yeah, who's doing this?
Who's skinning these cats?
I say that all the time.
That said,
Southern? Is it Southern?
I would love a cat skin blazer.
Now you know someone's really going to create that for you. That's the danger. That is the amount of power and fame that you have. Someone's going to sew you up a cat skin blazer.
Don't. Guys,
Don't do it.
Don't do
it.
Calico, please.
And then you have to go on Seth Meyers and he'll let you talk for 19 minutes about how
there are cat carcasses left on our porch.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, so Janie Haddad Tompkins.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us all.
I'm in the middle of a pivot. I have this perimenopausal rage as my engine right now, and it is fueling me. Like I have it. It is like chugging away, and it is pushing me into this other space that I didn't feel a healthy entitlement to claim before. And now I'm like, ready to rumble. But
I feel it.
It sounds like you and Paul are kind of in a similar place. Paul said that he's in a place where he no longer cares what people think about him for the first time. You're being fueled by perimenopausal rage.
My personal pivot and busy, this is something you just casually mentioned earlier that I want to talk about, is finding boundaries later in life. Because I did not grow up I never even understood what the definition of boundaries were until just recently. Like, people who are like, oh, you need to say no to that and have boundaries. I just thought boundaries were saying no. And that's so not even close to what boundaries are. Because boundaries.
Janie, same.
Yeah.
Same.
Like, like boundaries are also like with your own being. Like, where you start and begin. Like, where you're not being like sucked into somebody's force-filled kind of a thing. Because I've always been kind of spongy in that way, which is helpful with acting.
Yeah.
But not helpful with life.
Yeah, because you're absorbing. I feel like I absorb people's anger a lot. And like, so my boundary recently, and especially in the pandemic, is being like, I understand that you're not feeling great, but like, I'm not a garbage can where you just dump your poor feelings and then go off into the world like feeling better, unburdened of all that shit. And here I am holding it. Like, and so I feel like that's what you're describing a little bit.
And so much of it was how I was raised. Like, in the South, I was the only girl in my family too. And just this whole like societal kind of expectation on me to make everything better for everyone else constantly.
Yes.
And while that's an admirable skill to have, and I know I can access it at any moment, it doesn't have to be my 24/7 ethos to the point where I'm like, who am I?
That like, I almost feel like I want to cry hearing you say that because I'm just picturing you taking on the shit of other people that, in an effort to make things better, when I know, because I know you, that the way that you actually make things better is by being your outward self, who you are. Like, you're you're the sunshine, you're the person that I want to hear from. I don't want to see you getting other people's shit stuffed into you.
I've been in a situation where I've had like close friends when I'm like, I'm having a hard time right now. And like a close friend, I'll be like, you can't be having a hard time. Like, you're not like you're not allowed or something.
Yeah, I'm the hard time person.
I'm the hard time person.
You are the person who listens to the hard time.
And so I've had to like kind of reassess those types of friendships in my life, just because like I can't, no human can live that way, Right. And so, yeah, I mean, I do have an optimism and a sunniness, but I also work at it, especially in the times we're living in. Like, there are times I want to be like, what? It's going to burn down to the ground. It's all going to burn down to the ground, So, but like, you have to kind of like, that's a boundary too, right? Yeah. Of being like, okay, what can I control in this smaller space that I'm occupying, So, yeah. So those are my pivots. And some of it was the pandemic too. Like, even though this is like stuff I've been working on in therapy pre-pandemic, the pandemic kind of like hammered it home. I don't know. I just like had like time to really be like, what the fuck? I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. And I have things to say, I have things to say, and I want to funnel it and put it out there and not just defer to other people's stuff,
Yeah. That's what I want from you too.
That's what I want from you too. And from you, Paul, and from you, Caissie, and from me, Busy Phillips.
I want for all of us because we're all creative, sensitive people, and
it is true.
Okay, Marvin Gaye.
But wait, I had something else to say before we went away. I think it was about how much I love you guys and I really miss you.
I miss
We
you.
miss you too.
Yeah.
I love you too.
I was excited to do the podcast just so like it was like we were just like FaceTiming.
Yeah.
Why not?
Like,
I mean,
it
that's
wasn't like-
honestly,
It's been a nice catch up.
It's
for
more
sure.
of a visit.
Yeah.
it really was.
But also, you told us a lot of interesting things. You gave everyone a lot of food for thought.
Thank you for being on our podcast. And thank you, though, for always being friends to each of us individually, also together.
Yeah.
Together.
Also, everyone is friends.
I know.
We
I love
you both so much.
I love you,
and
Busy. I love you,
Thank you for
Caissie.
being our friends.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, this was
You both
delightful.
look, I just want to say, I know we're not supposed to talk about the way people look. You both look fucking great.
Very good.
Whoa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I accept it.
Yeah. That's right.
I'm using the filter on Zoom, but that's okay. I touched up my appearance, but whatever. All right, love you. Thank you.
Love you too.
All right, we'll
Talk to you
talk soon. Well, guys, Jeff Richmond, Tina Fey, thank you so much for joining Caissie and me, Busy Phillips. Like we all know each other, obviously, because we work together. We've all worked together.
Yes. Wait, Caissie, were you saying that you met, I mean, did you meet Jeff ever during Busy Tonight? No, you just...
We just only spoke on the phone, but we co-wrote the Goodnight song
Yes.
from Busy Tonight together. So it's so nice to see his face.
It's one of my favorite collaborative moments.
I like
was Coastal and for Busy.
I still get, you guys, I still get requests on DM. I got one today, actually, that said, will you sing the Goodnight song at some point?
How did it go? Will you sing it right now?
I don't know if I can remember it.
Jeff, how
Jeff
did
just
it go?
listened to it.
I just listened to it. So good, na da dum da 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 da, and it started out with a tequila line, but
There's no more tequila.
Wait.
Your marg's
There's no
been
more
downed.
tequila. Wait,
There's
your
no
mark's
more
been
tequila.
downed. Babe, I
Babe, I
totally feel ya. Put on Mr. Nightgown. Someone was a great guest.
Mm-hmm.
Something else is.
This is
Put
like a
in
line that
here.
we would
Yeah,
write
we would
every
always
time.
write every night.
right.
Na 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 na. Something away your fears.
A funny joke.
A funny joke,
Right.
right? And then good night.
Right.
Love Busy tonight. Is that right?
Yeah.
There you go. That was it.
That's it.
And that funny joke would always be written in a panic, like in the remaining 2 minutes before the show, because we would always forget
Yep.
to write it. And it would be hastily put into the teleprompter. Sometimes Busy wouldn't even know what the joke would be before she
Right.
sat in the swing to sing it.
That's right.
And that's how that was done. Little peek behind the curtain.
You would forget to write it. That's cool.
That whole operation. Well, because
Forget
they
to
would
write
wait to
the
see
joke.
what happened in the show, and then
Right,
write it.
right. Oh, sure, right. Like the last minute. Right.
Well, sometimes also though, guys, we would forget that we needed to come up with a couplet for the song.
Well, that whole operation was so wonderfully tiny and like just felt like 1951 television meets
Yeah, and
2050 sensibility. Like it was the past
Yeah.
and the future all
that-
at once.
that
And
cool
me-
kind of local TV kind of.
Yes,
Where the
that's what we were
weatherman
going
also
for.
plays plays the clown in the cartoons show on Saturday. That's what I always felt your show is like.
Well,
then
we
it-
were so lucky. We were really lucky just to work with Tina, to work with you, Jeff. It was really lucky. It was nice. It was nice. It was just nice and weird.
It was nice. It's a good year.
It was nice. I look back fondly on that time. You guys, I want to ask you, we're so lucky to have you. We talk about pivots on the show. I want to ask you about, if you don't mind, about your relationship and then your working relationship together. Because one thing, you're very much a power couple.
Thank you.
I'll take it.
I want to start at the beginning. How did you guys meet?
We met at the Improv Olympic, right, Jeff?
Oh.
We met at the Improv Olympic in Chicago in should I give a year? It was a long time ago. It was 1994. I would like to say it was the heyday of long-form improv comedy in Chicago. And I was the piano player at the Improv Olympic, which meant I was the only person that got paid other than
Yeah,
China.
that's true.
And I must have looked like a cool daddy-o, huh? Right? Because I had dragging my keyboards every night upstairs.
Hearing your keyboards through the ice and snow.
It was very
$50
smart
in
of
one.
you because in my experience, everyone always falls in love with the improv keyboard player. That's true, right?
Yeah, it's
always
been my experience.
He's swimming in it, guys. Jeff has this crazy skill that only a handful of people in the world have, which is the ability to score improv. And it's such an example of like a person who's like a great listener, a great communicator, really intuitive. You can imagine what else that bodes well for. But like, yeah, the ability to like lead a scene and like help beginners kind of like find their way, or like play something on the piano that makes them bring back an idea that they hadn't thought to bring back. So there's only like 5 people in the world that can do that, and he's one of them.
Oh, that's really nice.
That is such a cool and specific talent. And I was just as you were talking about it, I was thinking about watching improv, long form improv in Los Angeles back in the day, and yeah, like the musical, director, a person doing it. And I guess I have never seen one of the 6 people, Jeff included, who can, but like, you'd also have to have a really good sense of timing, I imagine, and you have to like know where the jokes live, because you're gonna bring them. You can bring them back musically.
Yeah.
Did you perform? Were you always a funny person, Jeff?
Pivot. I thought I was going to be a performer, and that was my first pivot. Is that I always said, I'm going to be an actor, and I was fairly good at it. And then suddenly I decided I didn't want to do that anymore because for whatever reasons, maybe it was anxieties. I didn't want to be on stage like that anymore. But I turned to music and writing music. But the thing about improv is very interesting. You're just kind of listening, and you have to kind of know the rules of improv and be another player up there. You kind of have to. It's not just shooting from the hip.
I'm texting you both a picture of Jeff as a child actor in like Virginia Beach playing like, or no, maybe that was community theater, but it's like him playing an old man.
That was dinner theater. That was paid.
So funny.
Wait, you know what? This is amazing. God. You guys, this is an amazing picture. We may have to ask Jeff's permission to put it on our Instagram when we air this, because it is amazing. But also, you can really see your daughters in this. Because I always think your kids look so much like Tina, and then you see this picture, and I guess, wow. They really do favor you a bit.
If you put a beard on any one of our kids, they would look like me. And then if the beard gets too long, they look like Tina. As a joke. See? I don't know where I was.
But that's the same with me. That's the same with us. Like, if our children with a beard look exactly like Mark, but then sometimes they really shapeshift and they look exactly like me. Oh my God, Jeff, look at you.
So
this is
cute
really
and
amazing.
funny. Holy moly.
So you guys met. Tina played it cool. Was trying to be cool about it.
I remember that's the first thing I said to you, because at the time Jeff had like very short cropped hair, and I was like, "Do people ever tell you look like Anthony Hopkins?" And he was like, "Yes," because he did. He kind of it's like a young Anthony Hopkins.
All the time.
And we didn't really just go on a date. I think the way that you opened that door was you were like, because Jeff's day job was working at a children's theater company called Child's Play, where they would tour and they would like write. It was a great thing actually, where they go to schools, teach kids about story, then the kids write stories, and they take the stories away and they come back with a produced play of the kids' story. It was like this awesome thing. I guess it's still going on. Anyway,
that's great.
He was like, I'm writing these children's plays and I'm looking for someone to like help me out. And it was like, of course, the way to my love language being work and acts of service. Like that was.
I don't know if I ever told you this story, Tina, but I'm going to spill it now.
Oh no!
On Busy's show.
Oh no!
Maybe I did tell you, but that was like in 1994 when you could call in for like hotlines for like what do you call them?
Like psychic hotline.
Yeah, what do you?
Psychic.
Oh, like a psychic hotline?
Thank God.
Yes,
yeah.
I do know this.
And
this is good
this person I was talking to, and I was because I was at a kind of a crossing point in my life then too, pivot, and they said you were going to find a T. The letter T keeps coming up, and and there you are. I really think that was you, and I think that psychic deserved the
$21 that you ended up paying.
A minute I paid for her.
Miss Cleo? Was it Miss Cleo?
It was a Miss Cleo knockoff.
Wow.
Was it like a 312 number? Was it just another dwelling in Chicago? We'll never know.
We'll never know. But here we are.
Here we are.
Now. So you guys like obviously fell in love, and then did SNL happen together?
No. So we started going out, and it was so funny because, again, all the Chicago improv world ethics, like there's nothing more high stakes in the world than Chicago improv when you're in it. And I remember at first I was like, I can't keep this a secret from my team. Like, I can't let the rest of Inside Vladimir find out that we're dating. And then like that cat got out of the bag. And then Jeff got hired at Second City to play piano in the one theater there. And I was working my way up through the touring company. And I remember by the time I was on the main stage, I had been there for a little while. I had tried, I'd been like scouted. Our show had been scouted by SNL. There was no interest in me as a performer. And then Jeff got picked. He was going to direct the next show in the main stage. And I was like, well, obviously this is a conflict of interest because, again, such Chicago ethics. So I was like, I better leave the company. It'll be just like, it's won't be fair to people. Now. You'll be picking my ideas. So that was what prompted me to go ahead and push and try to get a writing job from Adam McKay. And so I spent like that summer working on my packet of sketches and sent them to Adam. And Adam, who knew me a little bit from Chicago, was like, great, flew me out. I ended up getting the job. So then I left Chicago. I was flying back and forth.
Wait, I love that you're like, this guy that I'm in I assume you're like in love with him at this point. You guys are dating. You've been together a while. And you're like, this guy that I'm in love with, he's going to direct main stage. I can't be in that show. So I obviously get a job in New York.
Yeah.
And just leave.
I got to leave.
I got to go.
Yeah, I got to go.
On a big TV show.
On a big TV show. That's what...
I mean, yeah, if I had not gotten a job, what would I have done? I don't know. Probably stayed. And then, like a bunch of time went by. And then, and then there was like Cheryl Hardwick retired as the musical director. But then.
At SNL.
But then somebody else, and you had moved there by then, but I think somebody else had the job before you. Which, by the way, when a big job comes open like that, always better to be the second one to come into that job.
Be number two.
Correct.
That's don't be number one when you're trying to fill big shoes. Yeah, which worked out. But I will remember this. So you were in New York. I was still in Chicago, kind of going back and forth, and we were long distancing, and that's why we didn't decide to solidify our marriage of sorts until we were in the same city for an extended amount of time. But I remember when I was this is kind of a pivot too. When I finally came to New York and wasn't working in Chicago anymore, I would still I wanted to be in show business, so I would still get jobs at Conan's show, at Conan O'Brien, because if you knew somebody there, like we knew a lot of writers and whatnot, you could get those weird little comedy bits. You'd come in, show up, and I'd show up, with a diaper on,
like wearing a diaper with
Jack
Angel,
McBrayer
like
would
Cupid.
Pull out a little, gun that went bang. I don't know. You do these ridiculous bits
like a
for
barbershop
scale.
quartet, right?
And I think it was Robert Carlock that said that my life was like a O. Henry novel. Because I wanted to have my own money, but I had to just disgrace myself
to get your
in
own
the
money.
business to do it.
That's hilarious.
That I was getting checks from entertainment partners.
Yeah.
And very inside. I don't know. That's how we were in New York.
Also, when you finally really left Chicago was you had just opened. We got married in like June of 2001, and you went back and you were directing another show. The show was a couple days away from opening when September 11th happened, and you were like, I gotta go be with my wife. And you got a rental car and drove, let the show open without him, and just kind of came and sat on the Upper West Side.
It's much like the Girls Five Ever story, because on that show I was directing was supposed to open September 12th, 2001.
Not a great time to open a comedy show, I'm going to say.
Not that year, no.
Not in that moment.
No.
So you came to New York, that job opened up at SNL, and then you guys get to work together again. But Tina did not have to recuse herself.
No,
there was no conflict of interest. Not that
because
time.
it wasn't Chicago.
It wasn't Chicago. It was New York rules now, baby.
New York rules.
No ethics in New York, and we didn't. It wasn't like our paths didn't cross in any way that would have been a problem.
Right.
And so, Jeff, like at SNL, was that when you started? Like, what kind of musical like composing would you do for the show? Like, if they were doing like, that thing that I loved. What was that thing that I loved? Where it was like the techno songs.
Deep House Dish.
Deep House Dish.
Right.
Like, would you write those songs with the writers, or would you write them? How would it work?
No, you would write them with the writers because when you were the guy that was one of the musical directors, or as I was, creator of special material, special music, they would just bring you. You would be there on Tuesday nights with everybody else, and they would bring you these scripts, and they'd come in. I need a song. It's supposed to sound something like this. Here's the words, and you'd have to sit here and kind of like re-engineer these words that wouldn't scan into songs and make them fit. And you'd have like about 20 or 40 or 100 of these before the read-through, which happened on Wednesday. So you'd be there all night, as all the writers were, and then you would have to teach the host before read-through started the next day, which was usually about 1:30 or 2 in the afternoon. And they would bring in whoever, Tom Hanks or whatever, Catherine Zeta-Jones. No big deal. And they would have to stand there and pretend that they're learning a song that they'll have to sing in front of Lauren and the whole room within the next 30 minutes. And so and then you'd have to play the read through all the music. But you were writing all the jingles and the songs and the little musical numbers and music for the monologues, which they used to do a lot.
So many musical numbers in the monologues.
Oh my God.
Your favorite monologue song was the King Kong one you wrote with Jack Black. That was because Jack Black's so good at singing.
Yeah. That was a great show that night. I just remember that being because first of all, Jack Black is the most game guy with talent that you can ever imagine. He's so much fun.
Jeff, I was living a weird parallel life down the hall at the Rosie O'Donnell show, which was very song parody heavy. So I was in the morning writing song parodies, teaching Martin Short or Billy Baldwin whatever song he was going to sing with Rosie. And our executive producer would always be like, why are you hugging Billy Baldwin in the hallway? And I'd be like, because he was nervous to sing a song and we got through it. But I remember I snuck into the rehearsal to see Jack Black rehearsing his song because I loved him so much.
Oh, wow. That is so weird in a small world. We worked on the same floor. Sure, why not?
And Caissie, was that with Seth Rudetsky?
Yeah, Seth Rudetsky was there, but I went with Judy Gold. She snuck me in to see, because she was friends with Jack Black, so she brought me down to see Jack Black rehearse because I loved him so much. Yeah.
That's really funny, too. Talking about those monologues, it would be Lauren's thing. Well, Tina can jump in here, and you worked there, too. But they were... You never knew what was going to happen with the monologue until like Friday night, and you'd be writing a song that would be have to come up the next day, and you'd have to get the band and chart a whole thing, and you were going to rehearse it at 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday so it could air 12 hours later. It was crazy.
Do you feel like that job, that experience prepared you for Mean Girls, or do you feel like Mean Girls was always in you? You always wanted to write a musical. I want to ask about that because you guys, we can fast forward too. You guys, and then you left SNL, and then you started a production company together, and you had children.
Right.
And well, yeah, I'd say Jeff he'd written musicals before. He had written musicals in Chicago from college on, and at Kent State. He had written in that form before.
Like what kind of musicals?
Well,
such a pause.
I wrote a bunch of musicals.
Okay, so musicals were always you loved it.
It's so funny. Pivot. Yeah, I always assumed that I would be really, acting shows, whatever. I don't know why we're talking about me so much.
Well, it is interesting, and also, Jeff, I do want to say, as someone who's the more public facing of the two people who work in the same business, it is rare that the one who's not the more public facing one gets asked a ton of questions.
It's very true. So I've been, as you can, I'm ready.
You are ready, and I'm sensitive to it, and I'm sensitive to it, clearly.
Because you've had to live with it as well.
But I do also think it's really interesting because I know, like, look, this past week has been so fun with Girls 5 Eva coming out and people having the reaction that they've had to it. And the thing that obviously is such a huge, huge, huge part of it is our music and the music that you put together for both the flashbacks and like the boy songs and New York Lonely Boy, which I think is, I told you, I think it's a real banger. I think it's a hit.
Yeah, people like that one. It's funny. I was going to say that all that, everything we did for Girls 5 Eva was all Second City that was the training ground for that. Second City and Saturday Night Live and all those places where you'd have to like, write something quickly and be able to produce something quickly that sounded like something.
Oh.
So that was I feel like Girls 5 Eva, its lineage is all television. It's all that world. It's all creative music for this medium. And I think Broadway is such a different thing. Somebody asked me, and I think asked most of it, what is the difference between writing for this? And there's just so much more time to overthink and think about things on Broadway. That you have none of that time when you're writing for TV whatsoever, And I don't know that it gives you better results. I think sometimes you don't? I really don't. I think like you can overthink something you could craft something to death until it lost anything that made it shiny.
Yeah.
I mean, we're huge Mean Girls fans in my home.
Yeah, I know. You guys, Busy, you were the first celebrity who saw it.
No,
Is that true?
I went to the dress rehearsal. I went to the last dress. I was in town for that. So Mean Girls, and you're doing Kimmy Schmidt. You did the music for Kimmy, too, which was like great music in Kimmy.
There's a lot of great music in Kimmy,
30
too.
Rock?
30 Rock. Jeff scored, scored 30 Rock. There's actually a 30 Rock album of the score that the late, great producer Hal Wilner produced because he wanted to do that with Jeff. And that had some good there were a lot of, Jane Krakowski sang a lot of very short, funny songs on 30 Rock.
Oh, that's right. I guess I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah. Tennis Night in America, the Mystic Pizza musical, which is now really happening.
What is?
A joke on 30 Rock, and now there really is a Mystic Pizza musical.
Mystic Pizza musical. Well, we had just made a joke about it, and she had to sing a song from the Mystic Jenna Maroney did. And then we found out last year, oh, they're doing it.
Well,
it was
but guys, didn't you make a lot of jokes on 30 Rock that are now real?
Yeah.
Tina, jump in. There's some good ones.
He did.
What are there any that are we can't talk about that feels
usually it's not if it came true it wasn't great news.
I know there are a ton of them. It's like the thing about the way that you work, Tina, and I feel like Jeff, it holds true with the music that you do too, is that it is like there's a joke on a joke on a joke like that just keeps building and building and building, where even when I'm watching a show that I am in, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't get that until just now. You know what I mean? And I wonder if you guys feel like your comedic sensibilities have informed one another.
Yeah, I think it definitely, between me and Jeff, and then also between me and Jeff and Robert, it has all influenced each other. So my tendency, at its worst is to be like a little bit pokey on, or perhaps one might say strident on issues or topics or issues or topics, and then trying to coat that in jokes. But I think Robert brings that absurdity, which then once that's happened, I remember, I just remember a vivid moment in the 30 Rock writers room where just this weird joke with Chris Parnell. It's like end of season 1. Alec has had a heart attack, and Liz finds out that she was actually in his phone as his emergency contact. So she shows up at the hospital, and his mother is there, and Emily Mortimer's his fiance, who he doesn't really like, and then Chris Parnell shows up. He's Dr. Spichemin. This is also absurd, but he had some joke where it was like he shows up and he's covered in blood, and we're all like, oh no, and he's like, oh, don't worry, no, I was at a Halloween costume party, and in the room, Robert's like, don't worry, I was at a Halloween costume party, and then I said like in the room, said like, and the hostess's dog attacked me. And then he said, so I had to stab it. Like, it was just like that's like the final joke. And it was just that, bringing out the worst in each other. And I think Jeff is, absolutely a part of that development of that sensibility. And now it's just trying to, I feel like my job is just always trying to keep a lid on it. I'm always saying like, guys, if you have a joke here and a joke here, I'm holding up my fingers 1 inch apart. You don't need to put a joke here. Like because it just becomes like, so I feel like my job is become joke removal.
Joke police.
Joke removal.
Joke removal.
Joke management specialist.
Joke management.
That's it, Caissie. Joke management. Very true. Very true. You're good at it.
I get that. And I think that, Tina, I admire that because I feel like that has become my role too, as like I've matured, and it's a thankless role, I feel like.
It's like a fun killer role, but I think
because there's never any proof that you were correct. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The only proof is if everybody goes against you and does it anyway, and it turns out bad, you can say, I told you guys.
And that's not a fun proof. But then you convince them to do it, but I do think like with Girls Five Eva, because Meredith has she is a joke machine. And there were definitely times where I was like, let it breathe. Or like, don't bend it, bend it, don't break it. Like, and I hope that she feels good about the times that I sat on that, because I do think it just, with episodic, it just gives you a minute to care about people. It lets you retain some boundaries on the universe, not many.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one thing I've just consistently heard in the last week from people who've watched and loved the show is that they feel like that it is so funny. The music is so fucking great. And then also that it has so much heart, and it like is, you really care about the characters, and you can't believe, like I had a good friend who was like, I couldn't believe that I was like misty about the whole thing at the, like I was so rooting for them and I didn't even know it. Cynical TV asshole friend. You know what I mean?
I think that's twofold. I think that's the actors being warm and caring about each other and taking their stakes seriously. And then I think it's the score. Like, I think those two things can really combine to come get you, like when the actors are playing everything real. Like when you discover Andrew's Crabbitat and you play it so real, and then that moment is heavy.
So
busy
real.
that I was scoring that scene. I wasn't going to, because it was so good. I'm not even. I gotta. You're such a good actor, and it so comes through. No, I'm serious. I mean, of course, I'm serious. I wouldn't lie about it. But that particular scene, I have watched it over and over, and I was saying, this is heartbreaking.
Nobody
so
has seen
real.
it more times than Jeff.
Nobody has seen any scene in this more times than me. That's true. Because when you score it, you're just, okay. But I loved putting just enough music in that scene to wrench a heart just a little bit more.
I love it. So let me ask you guys this, because you with Robert Carlock, your partner, you guys all run your production company together, and I'm sure people bring you stuff all the time, writers from the staffs of your shows. I'm sure that, Tina, don't make that face. Like, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
but how do you decide like who, like what ideas, who you want to work with, and what feels to you like it's something you can get behind?
I usually think one, is this a show I would want to watch? Which for sure Girls Five Eva is does this idea, this pitch, does it feel fertile? Does it feel juicy? Like, oh, I can see this many episodes of this. Does it feel necessary? Is there anything resonating through it that makes it feel valuable to people, either to see themselves represented or to, in this case, like telling a story of women in their 40s and 50s finding their voice. Feels like it might be meaningful to people to hear. And then with the people, I think like, are they good people? Which Meredith 150% is. And can they do it? You know, I'd worked with Meredith for a long time and I knew that she could do it.
Yes.
Because somebody can be a straight up genius and not be able to run a show. There's so much to running a show.
Yeah.
Sometimes being a genius would actually be in the way. But in Meredith's case, she's lucky. She can do it.
No, she was perfectly. She's also. I also do think that and this is not. I mean, you don't have to be a mother to do anything, but I do think that if you are a mother, you're sort of already prepared to be a showrunner because you're used to people constantly tugging on every part of your body, asking you things and wanting things. And you have to like make split second decisions. And in the case of motherhood, like it's life or death. And on sets, people think it's life or death, but it's really just about TV.
That's so true.
You know what I mean?
When you're a parent, you're living with other people in your head of like, well, when are they going to be hungry? And what are they going to need in on? And it is like that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And you have to be sort of like preemptive in the way that you move through the creative process, I think.
Yes.
Showrunners.
Yeah.
And Jeff, are you mostly just like, I don't like that idea because I can't write original music for it? Is that how you?
Well, is there a song? Is there a theme song? Is there a cool poster?
Jeff, do you like to work backwards from the poster? Which I think
do you really?
Sometimes.
Always.
I mean, that's not a bad idea.
I'm holding this up. I just realized I was looking at this cup it's from a little like coffee shop in New Hope, Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
And we think somebody built a house in New York, Pennsylvania under our name. It keeps popping up that
we went to New Hope one time. And
which is a charming
looked at houses and didn't end up buying a house. And after that one time, I've had like 8 different people, like guys on the SNL crew, random people being like, hey, I heard you're building a house in New Hope. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like so many people being like, I heard you're building a house. And I was like, did someone take a mortgage out in our name? Is there some other lady with glasses who's like,
it's really
mortgage
weird.
In my name?
Then there was a newspaper article, and I think it came around the same time when everybody was leaving the city that cited that
we were building a house in New Hope. We are not.
Okay, well, guess what? There was like a realtor in upstate New York that like sold a story about me having a house up there. I think they do that because they're trying to generate their own real estate business.
Yeah, maybe.
True.
So it might just be like, like a realtor is taking people out and they're like, who we were showing this property to is thinking about building a house here is Tina Fey. Like, you know who that is.
Who would give a shit? Who would be like, who would care? Cares?
I guess people do.
I lived in Westport, Connecticut, which is, a suburb of New York City. And that would often happen, like if, say, who's the guy from 90210, the blonde, curly-haired?
Steve Sanders? Yeah, like one time I saw...
But that's not his real name.
Ian
Ziering. Like one time we saw him in the diner in Westport, Connecticut. And then there was like a big rumor around town that Ian Ziering like moved to Westport, Connecticut. And I was like, what a boring day in Westport, Connecticut. But he was just like in the diner having pancakes, So that maybe that's what happened to you guys. I hope nobody built a house in your name.
I do. I hope they did.
Well, you should move into it. You should show up with your bags and move into it.
So are there more musicals in your future?
I want to hear your answer because we've never talked about this. So this would be a good time. I'd like to hear your answer first.
I mean, I would love to do it again. Yeah. I would want to start something original, I think.
I would do it again and go in so much smarter this time about knowing who to listen to and when to listen to people and when to really just trust your gut and when to really push what you... Tina made that glass.
Well, yeah, see this glass, you guys? I mean, the podcast...
She made that... She blew that glass.
You did the glass blowing.
Yeah, we did glass blowing. Our nephew in Ohio is a talented glass blower. Anyway, this is boring for a podcast, but I'm drinking from a
No, it's so cool.
No, it's very cool. It's very cool.
Wait, hold it up. I'll take a picture and I'll put it on the Instagram. Okay, ready?
Tina did a glass blowing with her nephew. She went to visit her nephew and did a glass blowing class with him, and she made a beautiful glass, and she's drinking out of it right now. I'm just going to narrate it. it because it's a podcast.
Guys, I have one more pivot, though, that we should talk about, which is letting your 9-year-old Penelope play my daughter on Girls 5 Eva.
Talk about a pivot.
That's a real
Did
pivot.
you ever think?
I mean, did I ever think that maybe she would be an actress someday? 100%. But did I ever think that we would let one of our children do? We did. Penelope did like a one-line thing on Kimmy Schmidt once when she was really small, like too small to even remember. I think, with Alice, because I think all kids go through a phase where they think that's what they want to do. I remember Alice and I, we went to see Pippin on Broadway, and she was like, I want to do that. And I was like, that's fine. If you want to audition for theater, that's fine, because that you have to really work and have skills. Whereas the kid actor thing can just be like cute, and then you just, your life is ruined. But so we always were very like strict about it with Alice. She was a photograph in one episode. She played young Liz Lemon in a couple photographs on 30 Rock. That was it. But then the pandemic happened. Everything was the pits. Distance learning was the pits. And this part came up, and I thought, we're going to have to let Penelope audition for it, because if she hears that there was a 9-year-old and she didn't get to audition for it, she'll rage. And so she gets that from me. And so
classic Tina.
And so we let her put herself on tape, and then we were like, it was pretty good. And her line, it was
good. The audition was, first of all, I want to say this. I got to see the audition.
Yeah.
First of all, the audition was amazing. Secondly, Penelope did her own makeup.
Yeah.
For the audition, because she was playing an influencer, like a makeup influencer. Obviously, you guys, if you've watched Girls 5 Eva, you know that. And her makeup was so
amazingly crazy, like so 9-year-old, like crazy. I said to Busy, I think, if I was given this audition tape cold and it wasn't my kid, I would be like, who's this crazy little bitch? This makeup was bonkers, like just crazy eyeliner.
She looked insane.
And adorable. But then, so we said, okay, well, great job. You did a good job. Obviously we're going to give it to a kid who's more experienced. And there was a lovely young woman who had also done a very good job. And we hired her. And then because of pandemic insanity, she had traveled to Michigan, and the quarantine rules changed and she couldn't get back. And so we were like, well, all right, here you go, Eve Harrington.
Here you go, Eve. Eve
Harrington, right? She got to skip a day of distance learning and get her COVID test and come on set. And I have to say, she was super professional and polite. And she was prepared, and she did a very, very good job. And I think, Jeff, tell me if you agree, but I think she's very interested in I think she feels a part of the show, but she feels that way about Mr. Mayor too. Like, she likes that we have these shows that are on TV now during her lifetime, because 30 Rock means nothing to her. Kimmy Schmidt, she doesn't remember. But she hasn't been personally thirsty. She hasn't been bragging that she's on it. She just enjoys the episodes and wants to watch them. Pretty cute.
She's playing it cool.
Yeah.
She did a great job. She was fantastic.
I have to say, I really enjoyed working with her. And actually, it's funny because I just want to say, Tina was, I wouldn't have been as on the fence as Tina you seemed to be. I would have been like, yeah, put him in, get her in there. But you were very much I don't, is this a good idea? Are you sure? And you kind of said to me, are you sure this is I don't know. I'm not, it makes me feel, my feeling was first of all, working with children, which I've done a fair amount of, is always so tricky, because you're not just working with the kid, you're working with whoever their handler is, and then their parents are there. And it's a real roll of the dice, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the kind of person who's able to or willing to give up their own life to take their kid to a million auditions and stuff is generally speaking, it's a lot is all I'm saying.
I've had a lot of very frank conversations with both our kids about what usually happens to child actors, and how you can do this if you work for us, but you cannot go work for anybody else. It's you know how when you come to the set and everyone's so nice to you because your mom and dad work there, that would not be the case if your mom and dad did not work there. Because it can be rough.
One last thing, Tina, I just want to say that we didn't really get a chance to talk about it, but your Dolly Parton was fucking fantastic.
Thank you, Caissie. Oh, Lord. You know, it wasn't supposed to be me. And then sometimes you just gotta, I had to summon my SNL impervious to humiliation armor and just be like, I'm just going to take my shot.
It was amazing. I could just watch like 6 episodes of you just doing that.
Talk about commending people for doing fine.
No.
Well, I don't think that's true at all, by the way.
To go from like full pandemic, like sweatpants, never leave the house, into full Dolly regalia was a real something. That was like a lot.
A pivot? That was a real pivot?
Thank you.
A pivot for you, yeah. Just and also just like amazing timing. Like just Dolly like helped us get out of the pandemic. It like just a genius timing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you did such a great job. I'd tell you if you didn't.
Thank you, dear.
Was I supposed to be looking at this the whole time? Because I wasn't.
Well, it's a podcast.
Should we do it again?
Jeff, you did perfectly. You were a perfect guest, and it was so nice to see you.
Well, guys, very glad that you took the pivots, and that when Jeff got that directing job, Tina really had to go for the job at SNL.
Due to her high ethical standards.
Her Chicago improv ethical standards.
Yes.
Did you ever feel, I have one more question and then I'm going to really let you go. Were you ever concerned about, because it was just a different time, about having your kids, Tina, and like not, and like in the height, like in your career, like, oh God, what if I get.
No, I was a person who didn't really think about having kids until like 33, like something, it was so chemical that something kicked in. And before that I was like, maybe I was not driven to do it. And then had Alice and then Penelope. They're so far apart because I guess I just kept thinking like, well, maybe when 30 Rock gets canceled, we were always on the edge of being canceled. And I was like, well, maybe I'll try again after the show gets canceled. And then it just went on for 7 years. So then I was like 40, 41. I was like, I gotta go. I gotta try. So I was 41. No.
Well, Penelope is perfect.
She's perfect.
They
So
both
many
are
ways.
lovely.
They are.
Young
They're great
women.
kids.
I love that Busy was like, I just need to ask you one more question, then I'll let you go. And then she asked you like the biggest, deepest philosophical question you could ever ask a woman.
I was just curious because you have such a, what?
I remember something about that in terms of like having, because I remember I did spin out a little bit about like, okay, I'm almost 40. This show's not ending. Like, do I try to have another kid? And I was shooting and there was like a hot minute. Oh, here's Penelope now. There was a hot minute where I was maybe going to do a movie with Meryl Streep. It never happened. But I was like, and I was shooting 30 Rock with, you have to be quiet, we're on a podcast. Okay. I was shooting 30 Rock with Matt Damon and we're just like chatting between takes. And I sort of was saying to him like, what do I do? Should we try to have another baby real quick? Or I might do this movie with Meryl Streep. And, you know, being a family man, but also being a guy, he was like, what are you talking about? Have a baby. You can always do a movie later.
Yeah.
He's so dumb. He doesn't know.
And then I think I got pregnant and then like was just keeping it to myself. And then the Meryl movie fell apart anyway. So
And then you told me.
He was kind of right. Like I shouldn't have put all my eggs in the Meryl basket. It didn't happen.
Yeah. And you know what? Meryl is still around.
She's still making movies.
So maybe Matt was right. Maybe he wasn't so stupid. Maybe he was right.
Meryl Streep, if you're listening, I'm sure you probably are.
Let's go.
Tina Fey, please call her. That could be her next pivot. She's ready.
She's ready. She's ready. Are you gonna create another show for yourself to star in?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't have, the biggest thing after 7 years, and that is the biggest mom thing too, of like being home when people wake up, like leaving the house at 5:20, whatever in the morning when your kids are not awake is not ideal.
No.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm just gonna pause and then like slide in Golden Girls style and like 10
I'm with
15
you.
more years.
This is the thing that people don't understand when I say like I quit acting or whatever. It really isn't about quitting acting. It's that like I don't want to work that much while these people need me as much as they do. And also, and not only that, and they don't even probably really need me that much, but I just want to be around them.
Yeah, you want to be around them. And someone had told me years ago that it's easier and I've told other people this, when they're tiny newborns.
Yes.
You can bring them everywhere. You can work. They need you more later.
Mm-hmm. You're just Phoebe Catesing it right now.
Yeah, I'm in
right?
my Phoebe Cates. Chrysalis.
Didn't Phoebe Cates like decide that she was gonna like?
I'd like to say
chill.
I'm Rick Moranising it.
You're Rick Moranising it
in like a
You're
couple ways.
Skeet Ulrich too. But now he's back because his kids are grown.
There you go. That's
true. We're just naming people.
All right, Caissie. That's not how we do a podcast? Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, mine are older and they will, there's going to come a time when, they're going to live on the other side of the country. That's what I can tell you. You'll never hear from them.
It feels weird.
Except for once a week.
If you're lucky.
Once a week's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm going to say if you're lucky.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much for making time for us.
And thanks for giving me all these jobs that you've given me and believing in me in ways that defy my own belief in myself, guys, both of you.
I'll never stop.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me.
Did you have fun?
How fun? The most. It's the most fun. No, I loved it. I really do love it. I love it. I love it because we've been doing this for so long and I forget how much fun we've had.
That's a really good point. Yes. Sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you don't remember, oh shoot, this is so much fun. But we have been so lucky to really just laugh our asses off so many times over the years doing this.
So lucky to have you guys with us along the way. Like tuning in for those 3+ hours sometimes and just being like, I'm down. I'm ready to laugh. I want to lull. Give it to me. And you know what? Sometimes we give you the tears and you're like, well, I'm here for the tears. But this was about fun today. And I'm so happy. And thanks guys for listening and loving.
Thanks for being with us. And we will talk to you real soon.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh no.